Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. We are not early today, but we are also not late. So we're still here. We're on time. It's Wednesday, March 25th. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We have a lot to talk about. So much has happened in the past 24 hours. If you were with me on the market close yesterday, the S&P 500 was up 1% at around, call it 420, 425. And the reason for that was a pretty big reason. The markets have held on to their green momentum since we had that move. We faded off the entire 1% move, but we're still up 0.67%. So we gave back about 33% of it, which is not too bad. Nvidia's up, Google's up, Meta's up, Rocket Lab's up, Robinhood's up, CrowdStrike, ARM is up 10%. They increased their guidance. We'll talk about ARM, that stock at 150 in the pre-markets. But there is some doubt. I mean, even Bitcoin's at 71,000. Gold was up 4% last night. There is some doubt about the headline that caused this move last night, and it had to do with a potential ceasefire, which we'll talk about. The Iranians came out this morning. They said, we don't want a ceasefire. We don't know what the hell the U.S. and Israel is talking about, and that potentially could lead to the broader market not holding on to the momentum it had last night. So there's a lot to discuss, a lot to get into. I mean, there's a lot of nuances in terms of how this is all playing out. We have a bunch of AI headlines as well, and so we will get into all of that as we get started on the show today. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you all for being here. Pox, what's up? Hello from Melbourne, Australia. I love it. You know, I was on the phone with someone from Australia yesterday, and I recognized their accent. And I was like, are you an Aussie? They were like, yes, I'm an Aussie. I was like, you must like Vegemite then. So I cannot wait one day to hopefully go to Australia. Tim, hello from South Africa. Thank you for being here. Kane, Martin, June, good morning. Good morning. Mike, Ricardo, Carolyn, Trucker, LA meetup this weekend. LA meetup is this weekend. If you are flying in, please make sure to get to the airport at least 3 hours early. I will be there. Very excited for it. A bunch of you guys signed up in the past couple of days, and so I'm very, very excited to meet everybody. You know, a bunch of people hit me up really over the past 2 days saying that they're coming through. Obviously, Steve, Sam, Jason, all of these guys will be here. An OG hit me up who lives in LA. Mr. Carlos from the Finance Junkies will be there. So for those that were there in those OG 2023 YouTube days when we did that podcast, Carlos has had 2 kids since then. He's obviously been, very busy. Doesn't really do social media anymore, but he's going to be there. So it'll be super fun and very excited for that. Jerry, hello from Malaysia. Thank you for being here. Broccoli Bob, Tesla Granny, Jarrett, Jerry, Adrian, Peter, Mike. Thank you all for being here. Wednesday morning, middle of the week. Let's get into it. All right. So what happened last night? Well, if you were with me on the market close, we ended up getting some breaking news. And this breaking news, actually, shout out to Cactus Jack. He reported it to me, which allowed me to report it to you guys. 5 minutes, a full 5 minutes, 300 seconds. 60 times 5 is 300. That's called quick maths. 300 seconds before the mainstream media reported it. And it definitely caused a move in the market. So what was the news? The United States sent a 15-point agreement with terms to a 1-month ceasefire to Iran. Now, Israeli media, Israeli Channel 12, which is the largest television station in Israel, reported this. And that's when we reported it on the show. The market didn't really pick it up. It didn't matter. And my perspective was, wait a second, this is the largest source of media in Israel saying that we have a 1-month ceasefire on the table. Maybe we should take that seriously. And then about 30 minutes later, the New York Times officially reported it. Then you had Bloomberg, you had all the big media sources officially report it, and it ended up becoming a big deal. So we're not going to go through all 15 of the terms because there was a bunch of technical stuff, but the 2 big terms that were disclosed from this potential 15-point agreement, we have zero confirmation that the U.S. actually sent this. You have a bunch of different sources coming out saying it was true, but Trump himself did not tweet saying we sent this. If he did, I think the markets would have been up even more because obviously it signals de-escalation. But the 2 big points were Iran would give up every part of their nuclear weapons program, every part of their enrichment program, and basically they would let the International Atomic Energy Association figure out what they're doing with the nuclear program, which would be something the United States would very, very much welcome, right? It would be a complete dismissal of their ability to defend themselves via nuclear capabilities. The United States would remove all sanctions on Iran, which to me, I mean, you talk about not being able to believe something, that's hundreds of billions of dollars that would be going to the Ayatollah if this regime stays in place. I mean, like that doesn't seem practical, but maybe that's the price Trump is willing to pay in order to get rid of these nukes. And so, there's a lot of different narratives here and headlines that, are going against each other. But at its core, the market loved it. We were up. Oil went down to 87 from 93. And it was a really nice after hours that has continued into the pre-market. However, Iran came out this morning, as per their state media agency, and here's what they had to say. We reject the ceasefire. We say we will not negotiate with parties that violated agreements. We will only end the war after achieving strategic goals. And we are accusing, or essentially Iran is accusing Israeli journalists and Western media of spreading propaganda and denies any direct or indirect talks with the U.S. So you've got the Iranians coming out saying, we don't know what ceasefire you're talking about. And if there is a ceasefire, we're rejecting all of it. We don't want to end the war until we, meaningfully have achieved our goals. And a lot of this is all propaganda. Also, the head of the media committee in the Iranian government, in response to what are called the 15 negotiation points, said enemies have drawn up a list of their own desires that they have been unable to achieve. And then he went as far to say the U.S. is negotiating with itself. So the Iranians obviously don't really buy what's happening here. Now, I think there's two scenarios to how this is playing out if we wanted to kind of analyze this. And I think, these are kind of the two objective scenarios that exist. Number one, Iran is actually negotiating, but they're denying all the negotiations to place maximum pressure on the U.S. so that the credit markets, the bond markets, the equity markets continue to price in further escalation, which would make oil prices go up, yields go up, et cetera, which could make Trump give more concessions. I mean, there is a world in which, this has happened many times in the past. Iranian media has lied, countless times, and they are actually negotiating through intermediaries. They just don't want to admit it because that would create more pressure. The second is there are zero negotiations actually happening. There is no peace still in place. All of the reporting on this has been factually wrong, and the war is continuing like it was before any of these headlines came in. And even if there is a ceasefire, the ceasefire is so apart in terms of the magnitude of things that the Iranians want versus what the United States want, which is quite frankly why this war started in the first place. They tried to diplomatically negotiate. They couldn't get to a deal, which is why Trump decided to strike. So after the strike, what would change things so substantially outside of that sanctions argument, which maybe the new Ayatollah would, concede to be able to end the war now that there is this potential ceasefire that's in place. And so I think there's two different scenarios going here. Either there is some legit negotiating that's happening, and time will tell if that's the case. Trump tried to convince everyone yesterday in multiple different media appearances that they are indeed negotiating with the Iranians. Or Iran is literally saying, no, there is zero negotiation. And if there is any resemblance of a negotiation, Pakistan, Turkey, a lot of these different intermediaries came out over the past 24 hours and said, hey, we are talking actively with both parties to try to get them to the table. Maybe there is some level of that going on, but it's not meaningful enough for the Iranians to actually feel that there is a good faith negotiation that is taking place. And as a result of that, I guess time will tell to see how it plays out, but that's why the market seems to be a legit negotiation that was happening. Now, again, Trump last night in one of his press conferences made the argument that there absolutely is a negotiation taking place. Let me pull this up right here. Why does the audio, okay, switch the mic. Good. Let me know. It's good now? Okay, let me switch back to the regular one. All right, let me know if it's good. It's not the Wi-Fi. I would hope not. It's the Wi-Fi. It's good. Yes. The lag is StreamYard, bro. The lag is not me. The lag is not the internet. That's okay. We're back. Anyway, I was going to put up the clip of Trump saying we're negotiating. So we pull that up, and then we'll keep going from there.
And I'll go along with the senators. I'm fine. But I was a big victim of it. Yeah, please.
Are you going to send Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff to do direct negotiations with the Iranians?
Yeah, well, we're in negotiations, as it turned out. And now you've seen what I said yesterday was exactly correct. We're in negotiations right now. They're doing it along with Marco, JD. We have a number of people doing it. And the other side, I can tell you, they'd like to make a deal. And who wouldn't if you were there? Look, their Navy's gone. Their Air Force is gone. Their communications are gone. That's the biggest problem. It's very hard to communicate them between themselves. All of the
So you've got Trump yesterday acknowledging, that was not live, that was yesterday, about 2 hours before the market closed, acknowledging that JD and Rubio are negotiating with the Iranians. And that led a little bit of credibility to the report that we had from the New York Times after hours that the United States sent a ceasefire agreement to the Iranians, and they're trying to de-escalate the war. So if you're wondering why are the markets up right now, why were the markets up last night? It's because of the market's perception of this idea that, wait a second, if we legit sent a ceasefire agreement, crude, by the way, look at that, 88.57. I actually thought it was up more than this. Dude, we haven't had below 90 in the past couple of days. So it's kind of, this is the first day this week we are seeing an open below 90, which is nice to see. Just the perception alone of a ceasefire is what the market is pricing in. Now, is it true or not? I have no idea. There's no way I could possibly say that we are legit having a ceasefire, or Trump did send the agreement, or the 15 points are true, or that the Iranians did reject it or not. Like, no one knows exactly what is true. But in the stock market, perception is often reality. And the perception here is that if the United States did send the ceasefire agreement, the market, at least for now, is pricing it in. If it comes out to be the truth that the United States is sending boots on the ground and there is no actual ceasefire, we're going to go right back down, and oil will go right back up, because any momentum to the downside in regards to the war de-escalating will not be proven true. But at least as of now, I mean, Bitcoin hit 72 today. It was at 65 a couple of days ago. That is all based on the idea of risk on momentum. Gold, which was down 7% on Monday, is up 3.5%. It's reclaimed 45.50. It was almost below 4,000 earlier this week. So yes, Iran has come out and rejected the ceasefire. The market has not priced it in as if Iran has actually rejected the ceasefire. And you know what's also interesting about this? Notice what Trump said yesterday in that press conference. Trump said they're negotiating with Rubio and JD. And what's really interesting about that is we had a couple reports come out yesterday where the Iranians, the reporting was that the Iranians don't like Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff. They're not fans of those two guys. So you got to put the pieces together. It's like, if those reports are true, that they don't like Kushner and Witkoff, which obvious reasons. I mean, they tried to negotiate with them in the first place, and they probably thought they were backstabbed by the negotiations because they ended up losing the Ayatollah. And then you have Trump affirming that Rubio and Vance are now part of the negotiations. It makes you wonder, maybe there actually are some negotiations taking place if Trump is name calling two people that are not Witkoff and Kushner. And then you take the other media reports that say that the Iranians hated Witkoff and Kushner. So, I mean, look, time will tell. We have no idea what exactly is true. All I know is we are green right now based on this assumption. Let's do the poll right here in the chat. And the poll is not just green or red, but we are green because of a ceasefire. My question, or the potential of a ceasefire, my question to everyone is, do you believe we stay green on the potential of a ceasefire today? Do we stay green on the potential of a ceasefire? Green, red. A lot of you said to put flat as an option, so I'll put flat, which would still be green. So I'll put more green today as the first option. Because if we keep going up, which is what we hit 660 last night, we're at 657 right here, 658. If we get to like 662, 663, like a meaningful level above where we even hit last night, then the market is really perceiving this war as coming to an end, at least to an extent. And again, the market can flip on a dime, but there might be some level of analysis there where the market's more excited. If we go red, then the market once again starts to believe this ceasefire thing is nonsense. And I guess time will tell. Iranian sources just now coming in a headline. What we seek is an end to a war, not just a ceasefire. Well, to end the war, you gotta go through some steps. And so once again, I don't think that headline is that bearish. If the Iranians are saying we seek an end to the war, not just a ceasefire, if you can get through some more heavy negotiating, maybe we actually do get an end to a war, not a ceasefire, but maybe we agree to the same tenets of that initial 15-point agreement that the New York Times put out yesterday, which could potentially lead to a full-on end to the war. So time will tell, but that is the update on the Iranian war. We'll talk more about it as we get through the show, and hopefully we have some level of momentum to the upside. Let's talk about memory. Let's get into the AI stuff, because this is incredibly interesting. SanDisk is down in the pre-market by 5%. They also made an investment in Nanya. They made $1 billion investment in Nanya. I don't know exactly what that company is. I do not believe it's in America, but they acquired 139 million shares of Nanya, which is about a 4% ownership, and that basically gives them more DRAM supply. I don't know exactly what the company is. I've never heard of the company before. It's a smaller company, but they did make that $1 billion investment. But that's not why it's down 5%, because if you look at Micron is also down 2%, 386. What is happening in memory? Well, We've been talking about it on the show for the past 4 weeks. I think there's a reason 70% of you don't own the memory names every time I ask the poll, and 30% of you do. And Chris Patel himself mentioned this yesterday, that this could be the reason why Micron is trading at a less than 5 times forward PE. Google comes out today introducing Turbo Quant, our new compression algorithm that reduces LLM key value memory by at least 6x and delivers up to 8x speed up, all with zero accuracy loss, redefining AI efficiency. And then they put out a blog to talk about this. So I think Chris hit up one of the LLMs and said, what does this mean for HBM, which is Micron? And essentially it concluded, and people can ask whatever LLM they want about this. This is the cool thing about Grok, is you can just literally press the Grok button on X, and then you can ask it, give me the implications for the memory stocks. But people can do the research themselves. But from this conclusion, it tempers the rate of HBM demand explosion. You still get massive overall AI growth because of Jevons paradox, which is more usage even if something gets cheaper. But each unit of AI capability now needs dramatically less HBM. That's what I believe Grok is saying right here from the screenshot. Inference serving fleets become far more efficient, which is exactly where KV cache memory pressure is the highest. Now, I am not an expert on memory. I don't fully understand the internal nuances of memory. If I did, I probably would have been onto the memory story earlier. But from a basic supply and demand perspective, there was a supply gut. Micron came in, SanDisk came in, Samsung, SK Hynix, they supplied that supply gut to deal with the overwhelming amount of demand, which is what created the supply gut, which is why their stocks went up. If that supply gut doesn't exist anymore, which I struggle to still believe even off this Google announcement, because based on what Micron has told us, they're sold out for like the next 3 or 4 years. You would imagine like their earnings are still going to be phenomenal, but that future growth once again becomes into question, which is what has been happening since the stock was at 470, and people have started to question the cyclicality of it. Whether or not this Google new update on memory is legit, and I think I need a bit more research to kind of figure out how legit it is. Once again, the perception of decreasing the necessity for the amount of HBM that are on these GPUs in particular because of these new algorithms, that makes it a little tough for the market to be excited about Micron, SanDisk, et cetera. And to Chris's point last night, what if some institution knew this was going to happen? What if some institution knew this was going to happen? I said glut. I didn't say gut. There's no way I said gut, dude. I meant glut. There's no freaking way I said gut. I'm not even going to rewind to see if I said gut, because I'm sure I said glut. So if someone wants to send me the clip of me saying supply gut, let me know. Goodness, dude. It's too early in the morning to make these mistakes. But look, what if some institution knew before Micron earnings, man? What if they knew Google was, these institutions have data way faster than us. What if they knew Google was going to come out with an algorithm, and that algorithm would perceptually, even if it's not meaningfully going to decrease the necessity of HBM, and the stock, at the end of the day, the stock is all that matters, right? The stock's not going to be stuck at 470. People talking about Micron to $1 trillion. It's kind of hard for it to go to $1 trillion if there's a supply gut that is now, I'm kidding there, resolved because of new algorithms. So if you own the memory names, I think the majority of people here do not own the memory names just based off the fear of how much they run and the potential of them continuing to not have that same level of demand, or have that demand but have multiple different vendors come in to provide and supply that demand, which would validate it essentially as a commodity. That is why the memory names seem to be down today. SanDisk getting hit 5%, Micron down 2%. I wonder if this dip gets bought up, though. I really do. When the market opens, I wonder if it gets bought up. If it doesn't, then maybe this is a lot more serious of a concern that the market's having. Wow, S&P 0.92 in the pre-market. We're almost at 1%. Let's see. Let's see if that can continue. Wow, I really did say gut. Everyone's saying I said gut. I meant glut. You guys know what I meant. But anyway, that's what's happening with memory. Google up 1.49%. Disney up 0.4%. Disney and OpenAI have ended their relationship. We talked about this a couple months ago when Disney and OpenAI rolled out their essentially billion-dollar licensing of IP characters for OpenAI's Sora. The reason they are canceling that partnership is because Sora is now shutting down, which makes a lot of sense. OpenAI was spending $10 to $15 million a day to run Sora. They were making zero money off of it. What could they make money off of? Codecs, enterprise use cases. There's plenty of different things that ChatGPT has figured out in terms of being able to monetize itself. Claude is obviously growing dramatically in the enterprise. So as a result of this, Sora officially shutting down. I think this is actually really good for OpenAI. They're going to shift their focus and GPU allocation to stuff that matters. But the era of AI slop via short TikTok videos in collaboration with Disney is over. And that's not happening anymore. We got a headline right here. Trump will announce 13 initial members, including Google co-founder Sergey Brin on Wednesday. The council may have a total of 24 members as per an executive order for an AI council. Wow. Trump coming out with an AI council. Trump to name Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Ellison, and Jensen Huang. They're calling it a tech panel, not an AI panel. The group will advise the president on how to regulate AI, among other issues. Okay, so Zucks, Larry, Jensen, Sergey Brin, I imagine Nadella, Altman, maybe Elon is going to be part of this. David Sachs is going to be the co-chair of this. And this will be happening, according to the Wall Street Journal, very soon. I wonder if they do a press conference to announce all this stuff. But that is for the Wall Street Journal. Looks like Trump is tapping on some of the big tech guys to be able to, yeah, maybe Lisa Su will be there, kind of get things going in the AI space. See, I mean, does Trump, like, when you see headlines like this and Trump getting ready to like start new tech panels with all these CEOs, do we really think he wants to put boots on the ground and fight a big ass war with Iran when he could go back to like pumping the economy because of AI? And like it's just, I don't know. You see stuff like that. And it's like, we're in the middle of a war and he's thinking of creating an AI tech panel. It's just weird, man. It is very weird. And it's good news, but it also might signal maybe that Trump is just done with this war and he wants to get out. So I guess time will tell. Meta right there, that's up 1.5. Google's up 1.8. CrowdStrike's up 1.43. Everything is up in the pre-market. Again, if you're just joining based on this idea of a potential ceasefire, Iran came out and rejected it. The market still believes it's possible. NVIDIA's up 1.43%. And that's why we are seeing more of this green momentum. It could be a distraction. That's also very true. It could be a distraction. It's just Trump has said almost 8 times this week, it's only been 3 days this week, that we are negotiating and we want to deal and we want to end it. Either he's flat out lying and he's getting ready to put boots on the ground, or, you know, even if the Iranians don't like the proposals that he's put out, he is trying to make a proposal. And maybe those proposals will result in some level of de-escalation. Robinhood is up 3.5% in the pre-market. The board of directors at Robinhood have officially announced a $1.5 billion share buyback. The initial buyback was $1.5 billion. They spent $1.1 billion of that $1.5. So they have $400 million left. They more than tripled that allocation of $400 million in the buyback to now $1.5. Shiv Verma, the new CFO of Robinhood, said Robinhood is a generational company with a massive long-term opportunity. This authorization reflects the confidence of our management team and board and our ability to continue delivering innovative products for customers and creating value for shareholders while returning capital over time. I think it makes sense. It is not like the most bullish thing in the world, because at the end of the day, Robinhood is still at the whims of retail investors, the trading cycle, trading volumes, and obviously Bitcoin. But it's nice to see the management team be like, dude, we do not think we should be worth, you know, less than $70. I mean, they bought shares back at 120, at 90, at 80. They've been buying back shares a lot over the past year, especially on this decline. So if they're ready to really buy the dip, yes, it should provide some liquidity for the stock, but it should also signal to shareholders that management feels they are deeply undervalued here. So that's what we got on Robinhood, as that is up in the pre-market. Lebanon's Hezbollah chief says negotiating with Israel under fire is nothing but an imposed surrender, calls for unity against Israel. All right, so you've got the Hezbollah chief saying that we will not negotiate with Israel as long as we are getting under attack, and the Gulf states should come together to fight against Israel. Again, more headlines saying that the war is escalating, but the market is definitely pricing it in as if this ceasefire has potential to run. VCX, let's talk about that real quick. So this is a closed-end fund that is from Fundrise. It's up 20% in the pre-markets. It's up 1,000% since Monday. I would be very careful with this stuff, guys, if you are thinking of chasing it. And, you know, everyone has to make their own decisions right here. But I think what's happened is this fund has 10 to 15 different names. All of them are in the private markets. They're the hottest private stocks that we could imagine: Spacex, OpenAI, Anthropic, et cetera. Anthropic is 20% of the fund. And I know people really want exposure to Anthropic. That's part of the reason people are loading up on Google and Amazon to get that exposure. But paying the premium, which is now 20 times the net asset value. You know, you pay a premium for a MicroStrategy or BMNR because it trades at a premium to the MNAV of the overall assets they have in regards to Ethereum and Bitcoin. And the most it gets to is like usually 2.5, 2-ish. Usually it stays at 1, 1.5, sometimes below 1. People are now paying 20x, which is implying a $4.95 trillion valuation on Anthropic. People, and this was before the thing went up another 30% after I posted it, so it's probably now close to $5.5 trillion. People, if you're buying this fund right now to get exposure to Anthropic, and I don't even want to do the math on what it means for SpaceX, Databricks, and OpenAI, you are paying $5 trillion to buy something that is trading at $600 billion in the secondary markets. This happened with another fund called DYXZ a while ago. Some of you guys might remember, and it was a great short. I'm not saying this is going to be a great short because this thing could keep running. I mean, it's now at 3.3 in the pre-market. When I pulled it up, it was at 3.75. So obviously it's hard to short some of these things, but yes, it does feel a little excessive. Now, you might be asking, what is the reason why it's running? Well, there is a lockup period for 6 months for the people that got their shares before this thing went public. This thing went public at $30, $31.19, I believe. So for 6 months, if you got in before the IPO, you're not allowed to sell your shares. And that's sort of what happens in a standard lockup period for IPOs within private markets. And so it's creating a squeeze, not a squeeze, it's creating there's not enough shares. And so it's creating like a massive level of supply gut and increased levels of demand. And as a result of that, the share price is going up. I just think it's incredibly risky. I think it's incredibly risky here. And yeah, DYXZ is up 25% of the pre-market now. And see, the Robinhood Ventures Fund is also getting a pump. Look at that. That's up 4% of the pre-market. The reason these funds are going up is because this freaking Fundrise thing is up 1,000% in 5 days, in less than 5 days, in 3 days. And so now people are saying, well, what are the other closed-end funds that are out there like Robinhood or DYXZ that we can pump some money into? I would just be careful. I would just be a little careful of this stuff. Obviously, retail is driving the action here. There's no freaking institutional investor that's paying $5 trillion for Anthropic. Like, this is all retail. And I get people really want Anthropic, but you could also just buy Amazon, which is a real business, and get your 15% exposure to Anthropic. And Amazon invested in Anthropic I think they invested at like $100 billion valuation, below $100 billion. There's plenty of other proxies in the public market that are legit companies that can get exposure. But that is what's happening with VCX, and that's why it's getting a bit more momentum. Yeah, you have the ARK fund that's also still flat. Even the ARK fund, which has all these companies as well. I don't know if they have Anthropic in it, though. They might have it, but this one has been the one that's been getting all the attention from retail as of now. Yeah, Zoom invested in Anthropic, etc. There's so many different ones. SKM, that's one that Chris Camillo likes. That's a company that also has exposure to Anthropic. And they bought their shares at like below a $50 billion valuation. So there's plenty of public companies that are out there to get exposure. BMNR, we got a headline just now. BMNR launches Maven, its proprietary Ethereum staking platform. They announced this a while ago. It looks like it's officially live. BMNR up 3% right there with 6.8 billion of ETH, which is 3 million Ethereum, 3.1 million. It will be the largest Ethereum staking service provider in the world. Expected annual staking rewards are 300 million at the current yields. BMNR just announcing that right now. So it looks like they are officially staking and going to be making some money off the Ethereum that they stake. Bitcoin right there, 71,688. Again, if you're just joining, we talked about why the memory stocks are down. Google introduced a new algorithm. That algorithm seems to compress the level of memory, particularly HBM, that is needed in these GPUs. And as a result, Micron SanDisk, on the headline alone, maybe the math is not necessarily accurate, but based on the headline and people considering the math might be accurate, that is why your memory stocks are getting hit right here in the pre-market. Speaking of the IPO, SpaceX is, as per the information, planning to file its S1, which is the IPO prospectus, within the next 2 weeks, with a listing possible as soon as June. Now, this is not necessarily new news because it was a couple weeks ago that everyone reported that June could be the IPO, but now it looks like it's becoming more real. The report says the IPO could raise more than $75 billion, with over 20% of the shares reserved for individual investors. That would put the valuation at close to $1.75 trillion. So my question for everybody is, who's buying the SpaceX IPO? Who's buying the SpaceX IPO? They do $15 billion in revenue They're going to get quoted at probably $2 trillion as they go public. I feel like we all got to buy one shares just for funsies. Just for funsies. But outside of that, dude, I don't know. I think what really matters more, and we've been saying this for the past couple months, right? Rocket Lab and AST, those are your proxies. Planet Lab, Lunar, Rocket Lab obviously is the one that gets directly compared to SpaceX, but Rocket Lab up 2.8% in the pre-market, likely on this news that if SpaceX goes, I mean, if SpaceX actually gets a $2 trillion valuation and Rocket Lab is stuck at $40 billion, you might have a lot of people saying, why can't Rocket Lab be worth $100 billion if SpaceX is worth $2 trillion? And maybe that's not the best, I guess, like logic of reasoning to be able to come to a conclusion around evaluation. But nonetheless, if the stock moves, the stock moves. And that might be something that could take place. So I think if you have some space names, you let the SpaceX IPO happen, see if it ends up playing out. But I don't know if buying the SpaceX IPO is the best. So that is what we got on the SpaceX IPO. Director of Israel's Mossad intelligence agency believes that regime change in Iran will take a full year, as per the Jerusalem Post. See, that's another reason I think the ceasefire news might have a chance of being true, because there is no way in hell Trump wants to fight this war for another year. Like, I mean, literally, he said it yesterday at that press conference. He had Pete Hegseth come on as well, and they both said this is not going to be a forever war. This is not going to be Iraq. Now, maybe you can, disagree with them and not believe them, but I really think this guy just wants to get back to low oil prices, a booming economy, and I don't think he cares about regime change. And I think he just wants to move on from this. But it might not be easy enough for him to move on from this. And so, I don't know. Again, markets are up based on this idea of a ceasefire. I mean, that is the only reason why markets are. There's no fundamental headline for why markets are green outside of that ceasefire news last night. SanDisk now down 6.5%. But if it's not true, then, we might end up getting that reversal. Taxes, let's talk about it. April, we are getting closer to tax season, at least in the United States. Everyone will have to pay some taxes. I thought this segment was actually pretty interesting on the level of tax refunds that will be coming in, just to give everyone an update on how much money potentially could be pumped into the economy if we do see some meaningful level of refunds.
Their returns may be disappointed in their returns. Sharon Epperson is here to explain. Good morning, Sharon.
Good morning, Becky. So far this tax season, the year-over-year change in the average tax refund has been less than the Trump administration initially forecast. In late January, the White House announced President Trump would deliver the largest tax refunds in U.S. history, projecting the average refund would rise by $1,000 or more this year. In mid-February, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, also acting IRS commissioner at the time, appeared here on Squawk Box and said early refunds were up 22%. But a month later, the IRS reported that for the 2026 tax season, the average tax refund is about 11% greater, 10.8% to be exact, than in 2025. As of March 13th, the average refund amount for individual filers was $3,623, up from $3,271 a year ago. About 70 million individual returns have been received out of roughly 164 million that the IRS expects to be filed this year.
So a lot of us will be sending in our returns pretty soon. I'll be sending in mine in about a week. Some people are getting refunds, some people aren't. But what's interesting about this is, once again, and the reason I think it's incredibly relevant right here is because rate cut probabilities are now basically non-existent for 2026. You have a 4% chance of a hike going into April. If we get some serious money pumped into the economy, which, as per their estimates, 11% greater than what it was in 2025 in terms of the refund, I mean, that's stimulus at the end of the day. That's real money. Yeah, some of you guys are already saying in the chat that you got $4,000 or $5,000, and that stimulus is going to be used on products and services. Now, the question becomes, if we have rising oil prices, because the ceasefire isn't real and we're still at 95, close to 100 a barrel, while we get that stimulus, so call it mid-April going into mid-May, that could have a meaningful impact on inflation going up. And even some of the Fed presidents talked about this yesterday. Now, if oil goes down and you have the stimulus, then maybe it's just going to help corporate earnings because there's going to be a lot more money to spend in general, and inflation naturally will not be able to rise as aggressively. But I think Trump knows this. Trump knows that he's about to stimulate the crap out of the economy. I mean, he ran on this whole idea of no tax on overtime, no tax on tips, and massive tax refunds. But I think he didn't estimate the fact that he would get into a war, which would push oil prices to the highest they've been in years. And that would end up creating a negative effect on the actual amount of money coming into the economy, because now you would have more inflation along with the stimulus. And the stimulus is good unless it's inflationary. If it's inflationary, the stimulus is not good because we need rates to go down for growth stocks to go up. And if we have so much stimulus and inflation, earnings might not be might not be enough to get these growth stocks to go higher. So that is one thing we have to consider going into the macro as we get into the rate cut season, or the tax season that's coming up, which hopefully transitions to a potential rate cutting cycle. S&P 500 right there at 0.84%. SanDisk still down 6%. SoFi's up 2%. Grab's up 2%. Gold is up 3.5%. Tessie up 2%, probably just off the SpaceX news alone. Nebius is up 1.6%, and Dell is up 1%. Did you see the import costs today? They are way up. Yes, I did. The import costs, let me pull it up real quick. U.S. import price index as per February is up 1.3%. The estimate was 0.3%. Export price is up 1.5%. The estimate was 0.5%. And then export price year over year was 3.5%. The estimate is 2.2%. Thank you, Martin, for mentioning that, because I forgot to bring it up. That's also not good for inflation, because it means we're paying a lot more money to bring things in and send things out. I mean, those are pretty ugly misses too. 1.3 versus 0.3, 1.5 versus 0.5, and then 3.5 versus 2.2. By the way, all of the previous months were basically at the same level of the expectation. So now we are at least 100 to 125 basis points above the not only previous month, but also the expectation that we had for this month. Ironically, that didn't cause any in the stock market today. I mean, the ceasefire thing. Look at Dell. I think Dell's at a 52-week high. Even though those import prices are ugly and they don't matter as much as PPI, CPI, but that's something the market still cares about. The ceasefire is all the market seems to be factoring in today, which is why we continue to be green, even with bad inflation data that came out early this morning as well. Let's talk about Palantir. So the Golden Dome, you guys might have seen this headline yesterday. Palantir is up 2.43%. Rosenblatt reiterated their $200 price target. This is not really new news. I mean, if you've been following the Palantir story for a long time, you already knew about this. But Palantir and Anduril are likely going to be providing the software for the Golden Dome, which is a essentially $125 billion project that the government is engaging in. Rocket Lab's going to be involved in it. SpaceX is going to be involved in it. And it's the next era of defense for the United States. So the Wall Street Journal mentioned both Palantir and Anduril, but Palantir's Maven Smart System was just named the system of record for the battlefield command and control by the Department of War. We talked about that on Monday. If the software content or prior significant defense contracts like this is any indicator, we think that Golden Dome, this is as per Rosenblatt, could be worth many billions of dollars to Palantir over just phase one. And as a result of that, you're probably seeing a little bit more momentum on Palantir based on this idea that they're going to be able to do this. Street estimates for the combined government revenue at Palantir over 26 through 28 is $13.6 billion, 25% below our $18 billion estimate. We think the Golden Dome is supportive of upside to the street and more in line with or better than above consensus forecast. We reiterate our buy and $200 target on Palantir. The government side of the business is something that cannot be ignored. And that's why Palantir is continuing to get this momentum. Shout out to Bluebird. I got an interview at Rocket Lab. Wishing you the best on that interview. That you got to come back and let us know if you end up getting the job. Congrats on that. That would be fun, man. To be able to work at a company like Rocket Lab. It's always so cool when I talk to the employees at these events of these companies, whether it's NVIDIA, Palantir, Robinhood, just getting to talk to them and be like, because a lot of them are the same age as me. They're 28 to 30, they're late 20s, early 30s, and I'm like, what is it like? You work in one of the most exciting companies, and a lot of them joined in 22, 23, so their RSUs are crazy. The amount of people I know at Palantir and Robinhood that joined when the stock was 7 and 8, it's just crazy because they got some juicy options. And, that doesn't happen in tech. A stock doesn't freaking 10, 20x on you in tech. Most of the time, it stays flat. And so it is super cool if you get some RSUs from Rocket Lab and are going to be able to work there. Cypher, they had a deal today. Cypher is up in the pre-market. We haven't talked about Cypher a lot ever since they got that Google deal a few months ago, but Cypher got a deal with a new hyperscaler, 15-year data center lease. We don't know which hyperscaler they are working with, but Street likes it. $200 million revolver they also announced, and this would be the execution of its third data center campus lease with a new hyperscaler tenant. Under the terms of the agreement, Cypher will develop and deliver a new HPC data center at one of its existing sites. So if you're in Cypher, congrats. Obviously, Cypher, APLD, Iren, Nebius, all of these names have been catching a lot more attention as you have more momentum in the data center space, but it doesn't look like the build-out for data centers is necessarily stopping anytime soon. Mike Wilson of Morgan Stanley, he thinks the war is not going to change the bull case for the S&P 500. We remain convicted that this is a correction in a bull market that lasted last April from the depths of a rolling recession. Our work suggests the correction is well advanced, not only in time, but price. For context, valuation drawdown is now as significant as what we experienced in the 2015 manufacturing downturn and the 2023 recession scare. What's unique about this episode is that the forward earnings growth continues to accelerate, closing in on 20%. This supports our stance that the probability remains low for this oil spike to end the business cycle. So Morgan Stanley once again making the argument that, look, we could have a war, we could have higher oil prices, but profit outlooks, as you guys can see on this chart right here, continue to be robust going into Q4 of 2026. And as long as companies are putting up earnings, that is all that matters. And that is why you cannot be super bearish. Now, if we get a recession and the price of oil continues to stay strong and we don't get rate cuts, obviously this could have an impact on corporate earnings, but we're just not seeing that yet. And until we see that, maybe this is why markets have not absolutely collapsed. I mean, they're down, but they are not down to the point where it's 2022 levels. And as a result of that, maybe that's where we get momentum if this war could come to an end. The airport situation, there were a couple of clips that went viral yesterday that I thought were pretty interesting. Airport situation is still pretty bad. Trump is trying to get a DHS deal worked out, but here was a clip from the Houston airport yesterday that went viral.
What's your message to Congress that could put an end to all of this?
It would be ideal. This isn't working for us right now.
Fire them all. Fire them all.
This is taxpayer money. What's
My
it?
flight leaves in 16 minutes.
16 minutes.
I got the 3 a.m.
Doesn't seem like you're making that flight. What are you going to do about it?
I don't know. Go home. Work in the yard.
Do you have anywhere to be? It's important. Where are you traveling?
I had a reunion with my high school buddies. So.
And now you're forced to miss that. Yep. Is that frustrating? What's that?
A little bit.
Can we move the line?
Yep.
We'll walk with you so that we can keep the line moving. Good morning, everybody. What time did you come to the airport?
I got to the airport at, I don't know what time I get here, 5:30, something like that.
Wow.
All right. Brooke, doing a great job.
Yesterday we were talking about this is a first world problem. As soon as he said, I have to go to a high school reunion with my buddies, I was like, that is definitely such a first world problem. But still, like, people aren't happy about that. And then this guy is like the most Brooklyn guy you can imagine. For those that have never been to Brooklyn or don't know what Brooklyn sounds like, this guy talking about ICE is what Brooklyn sounds like.
Oh, they're right there. All right, they're good to here to help. They're not bothering nobody. As long as they can check my bags and get me on my flight, I'm good to go. Right? I want to get to the Bahamas. I want out of here. Oh, they're right there.
The Brooklyn accent, along with the Australian accent and the British accent, are top 3 accents for me. Genuinely top 3 accents for me. That Brooklyn accent is incredible. And it legit is an accent. It really is. It actually is. S&P 500, 0.83. We got 2 minutes left until the market opens. I think those are some of the main headlines. We will see if this ceasefire actually is stable enough to get people to be more excited. That's more Long Island than Brooklyn. That's fair. Sometimes they are interchangeable, but that is fair. Oh, we have this headline as well. Adani is in talks with American technology giants, including Meta and Google, for a $100 billion digital infrastructure investment. This would be a lot of cloud computing and a lot of GPUs if this goes through. In India, the effort seeks to position his portfolio to Power Group as the supplier of both land and renewable energy needed for hyperscaler facilities. So if if Meta and Google want to build massive data centers in India, it looks like Adani, which is one of the richest guys in India, is getting ready to play a role in that. And obviously, he would welcome the investment. S&P 500 right there at 0.82%. Again, the ceasefire is the reason for why the markets have been green over the past 24 hours. Will they continue to be green is the question. Iran came out. They rejected the ceasefire. They said that this is Western propaganda. They are not agreeing to any of the things or the levels of tenets that were put into the framework. And some of these tenets are pretty big. It's a complete dismissal of every level of nuclear ambition that Iran has. But the other tenants say that they would get rid of all sanctions on Iran. So, I mean, there is a real big piece of upside if they were to do this, if this ceasefire is true. But Iran has come out today and said they rejected it. In the next 20 seconds, we will see if the market genuinely believes this, if we can continue to go green, or if this is another head fake and we continue to be choppy. All right, here we go. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It is Wednesday, March 25th, 9:30 a.m. The stock market, once again, is open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. S&P 659.42. We are up 0.96% on the day. Let's see if we can get through 660 and if we can make some levels above it. 659.60. We are up about 1% on the day. Rocket Lab 7%. That is the SpaceX IPO, baby. That is the SpaceX IPO for Rocket Lab. Palantir is up 2%. Cipher is up 10% on that new deal. TSM is up 1%. The S&P again up 1%. Micron is down 5%. We talked about Micron. Google came out with a new algorithm on their chips that potentially could reduce the demand for HBM by about 6 to 8x. That might be not fully warranted, but the perception of it potentially taking place is why Micron, SanDisk, all these memory names are taking a bad hit. SanDisk right there down 8%. EWI, which is primarily Samsung and SK Hynix as per South Korea, that is actually flat. You would think that would go down for Samsung and SK Hynix, but that's not. That's flat. Micron, a whopping 6% down. Robinhood's up 6%. NVIDIA's up 2%. Spotify's up 1%. Vertiv is up 2%. SoFi is up 3% on the day. This is the ceasefire pump. Either it's real or not, but this is the ceasefire pump. Apollo's up 0.5%. Coinbase is up 2.8%. All the airlines are green as oil is now below 88. Zeta is up 5%. AMD, this thing was almost below 200 yesterday, 213. That's up a whopping 4% on the day. Planet Labs is probably up. That is down. Weird. Some of the space names not cooperating. ASTS up 3.2%. Lunar is up 7.5%. It looks like Planet Labs is the only space name that's down, to be honest. Rocket Lab, massive move right there. 5.53% as that continues to go green. Orbs is now being seen as the proxy to OpenAI after that venture fund we talked about from Fundrise was up 1,000% in the past 3 days. Orbs has an $80 million direct stake into OpenAI, so they don't have Anthropic, they don't have SpaceX, but people are pitching it as like a really important proxy. And so you got Orbs right there. That was up 20% yesterday, up another 11% here on the day. Palantir 157.73. Ondas, I think that's above 11. That is just at 11. That's up 3% on the day, which is still green. Robinhood again, $1.5 billion buyback initiated by the board of directors. That is why that stock is getting a 6.8% move, but as well as Bitcoin going up and that ceasefire news potentially being interpreted as true is helping Hoodie. XLF, the banks are up 1.3% on the day. Where is Mr. Tesla, which was at 390 in the pre-market? Tesla is 392, holding on to that pump 3%. It seems inevitable, in my opinion, that Tesla and SpaceX will have a merger. And maybe people buy the SpaceX IPO just to see how that merger plays out. Maybe people buy Tesla just to get access to SpaceX eventually. Tesla right there at 392 in the pre-market. I don't think they put out a new video about Optimus, did they? Maybe that's also pumping it. I know Figure put out that video with their robot yesterday, but that could be helping as well. Visa's up 1%. MasterCard's up 1.2%. Grab inching towards that $4 range, $3.94, up another 4%. Let's see if we can get back above 4. That would be very nice. $3.93 right there on Grab, as that's up about 4% on the day. SoFi up 3.2%. You've got gold that's up 3.5%. Gold and silver, to me, are not your safe havens anymore, and they're definitely not hedges against inflation. They go up when the market goes up, and they go down when we have really bad risk-off news. I think the paradigm for gold and silver has changed. I really do. Gold's up 3%. Silver's up 5%. If we have a bull market, they're probably going to go up. If we get bearish, they're going to trade like Bitcoin at this point. Now, the opposite was true a year ago, and that's when you had the rotation out of Bitcoin into gold, but it feels like they're more risk on right now. CoreWeave, that's up 2.4%. Nebius, that's also getting a bid, 116. Where is Iren? Iren is up 3% as well. That's green. The 10-year also coming down a little bit, 4.3. It was at 4.45 yesterday. So seeing a little bit of a decline, 4.33. Again, all of this, everything you're seeing is contingent on this ceasefire being true, which if you were with me on the market close yesterday, that's when the news broke. That's when the market reacted. The market not giving up faith or hope that it's true. Look at Micron go down, man. 5%, 375. If you were bullish on Micron, the 4 PE has to be below 3 now. It was below 5 yesterday. So if you believe that's just too cheap of a multiple and the cyclicality narrative and the commoditization of memory narrative is not that big of a deal, you have to buy that dip. But if you've stayed out of it, then the thesis of waiting and seeing how this would play out probably is, at least for now, done well, given the stock was at 470 last week. Bitcoin right there, 71.7. 71.7. Hoodie gets back to 74. Nice to see that. Again, Bitcoin being up is definitely helping that. Cypher also up 8.4% on the day. Fartcoin is the new hedge. That is true. Fartcoin probably is the new hedge. Fartcoin's up 10%, by the way. So there you go. That is your hedge. By the way, the mortgage for the 30-year fixed in the United States of America, 6.43 as of this morning, 6.43. It was almost below 6 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, with this 10-year spiking up, it looks like mortgage rates will continue to be higher. Ondas is tanking. Is it? Ondas, well, I wouldn't say it's tanking, but it definitely lost $11. 1063. That now is red on the day. Kratos had an ugly day yesterday. That was down 7%. Now that's up 0.5% today. Lemonade is up 3.5%. UNH is up 0.3%. Oscar is up 3% as well. Let's look at the Mag 7. They are all green. Google, Meta, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Tesla, Amazon right there up 2.3%, and even Apple getting a bid. The semis are all green except ASML, Lam Research, and Micron. FinTech is all green. Square, PayPal, Affirm, SoFi, and Hood, along with Coinbase getting a bid. And then SAS, which had an ugly haircut yesterday. Look at SAS going green on the day across the board. Datadog, Snowflake, Cloudflare, CrowdStrike, Twilio, GitLab, IGV had one of its worst days in the past couple of weeks. It was down 4% yesterday. It is now up 2%. Where's VCX? Let me see. VCX, let's pull this up, is... Oh my goodness, guys. It's up 50%. Yeah, this is just becoming stupid. This is implying, I mean, rough math based on what I did yesterday and where the price was, this is implying Anthropic at a $7.7 trillion valuation. If you are buying the Fundrise Growth Tech Fund right now, you are paying $7.5 trillion plus or minus a couple $100 billion for access to Anthropic. So, I mean, if you think it's worth that much, then it's a free market, right? Everyone gets to do what they want to do. Private credit names are all green as well. Blue Owl's up 3, Blackstone's up 3, BlackRock's up 1, Apollo's up 1, KKR is up 0.5% as well. So you got all the private credit names at least somewhat recovering. Ares Management, that's up 2.9%. Micron's down because of Google's new algorithm potentially lessening the demand for memory. Again, that is not like fully confirmed, but the interpretation by the street is that that could be confirmed. I imagine Micron's gonna have to come out and make a statement about this pretty soon, because obviously their stock is reacting to that. Wow, S&P 660. 660. We are up more than 1% today. We are up more than 1%. Can you buy puts on VCX? I don't think you're allowed to. I'm going to check real quick. It is on Robinhood. VCX, I think it's only stock. It is, yeah, it's only stock. Yeah, so you cannot, maybe on other brokerages, but on Hood, you can't short it and you can't buy puts on it. RVI, by the way, Robinhood's venture fund catching a bid. Look at that, up 12%. See, like, I love Hood and I love that they're doing this, but I don't agree with these private valuations. So the reason it's getting a bid is because people are like, well, I don't want to pay $450 for Fundrise. I'd pay $28 for Robinhood Venture Fund, and that gives you a premium to the NAV, and then it becomes a free market on if people decide that's a price worth paying for. So private markets, and then you got the SpaceX IPO, which is obviously the massive catalyst that's probably pumping a lot more energy into this stuff. The interesting thing to me about this is that you have public stocks that are trading at depressed valuations for the growth that they're putting up, and people are chasing Databricks, Stripe, Anthropic, SpaceX, and that to me is a little weird. Just the overall sentiment shift of wanting to be in these private lucrative names versus public companies that are cheap. Look at AMD go, 6%, 218. It's quite incredible. But that seems to be what is playing out. NVIDIA, we are 179. NVIDIA almost 180. NVIDIA almost 180. OSS is at 920. That's up 1.7% on the day. Symbotic, that is a robotics company. That is up 3% on the day. Robinhood, it looks like the street really likes that buyback, 7%. Looks like the street really likes that. Costco's up a little bit. Shopify's up 3.6%. Is Celsius still getting hit? Celsius is still red. It's flat on the day, but red. I looked into the Kirkland Costco thing a little bit more, and it looks directly competitive, like 200 milligrams of caffeine, the exact same flavors as Celsius. Like, they look like they're legit trying to compete with Celsius. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess that's why Celsius is getting hit. Amcor right there. Wow, Amcor goes red. It was up 8% yesterday. down 2% right now, 49.53. So some of the semi names showing some red. Meta plans to reduce staff in social media teams and other areas, as per Bloomberg. Meta, $600. I mean, if they, oh wow, this is legit. Meta announces job cuts for employees in reality labs. Now, we had a headline about this back in December, and Meta spiked to 687 on this. The quote was 30% or more. I don't think we have that exact number yet, but Meta announces job cuts for employees in reality labs. Okay, so it feels more real than not that Meta is going to be laying off people. Meta platform to lay off hundreds of people. Bloomberg is saying hundreds of people in reality labs would be getting hit. The way Mick gets excited about a 1% move is like a movie, feels like we won a war or something. Dude, 1% on the S&P is like, you got to fight for every 1%. We were at almost 690, bro. Or we were at 697 on January 27th. So we need these 1%. Every 1% is like about $7-8. So, you know, it's big. $7 on the S&P. We're getting closer to that 7,000 level. I mean, but again, all of this, see, the problem with being excited about this is every time you get excited, it gets faded really quickly because some headline comes out that completely contradicts the reason for why the S&P was even up in the first place. And so far, that headline hasn't come out 11 minutes into the day, even though the Iranians came out with their response and they said, we don't want any ceasefire. The market is ignored. Dude, the market, I mean, again, the market can be irrational, but the market is more old. The market is the closest thing we have to an all-knowing machine that is out there because of all the aggregated amounts of data that it consumes and the perspectives that it has to ingest. And if the market is fading the Iranians' message of not wanting a ceasefire, that means the market really does think a deal is happening. No one believes the Iranians. Yeah, I mean, like, and the market, given this price action, Robin at 7%, Celsius just went green, is definitely showing you they don't believe the Iranians at all. NVIDIA, 179.70, 30 cents away from 80. Sats is going up. EchoStar, I still don't know how this company got into the S&P 500 and they're not profitable. Like, can someone please explain to me how the S&P let them in? I don't get it. Is it just the SpaceX stake, which I guess they made a loophole for them, but they're not profitable. How do you get in if you're not profitable? Zeta, 68. But by the way, if Anthropic and OpenAI go public and they go public at $1 trillion valuation, they're not going to be eligible to get into the S&P 500 because they're not going to be profitable. We're going to have $2 trillion companies this year, theoretically, if they go public, that will be uneligible to get into the S&P, which is kind of crazy. And they're probably not going to be profitable for many years. But their stocks are probably going to get bid up like crazy. Microsoft, 374, Salesforce up 1.4%, and then GameStop, that's up 1% as well. SMCI, did it bottom, folks? 2383, it's up 7%. It hit 1922 on Friday. Maybe that was the extent of the pain after that controversy with the NVIDIA chips. 2372 on the S&P, or not on the S&P, on SMCI. The S&P is up 1.2%. German Chancellor Merz comes out and says, we are trying to do everything with the EU to persuade the US and Israel to end the Iran war. That's also a good headline. More de-escalation potentially. And you're seeing that from multiple EU media outlets. Maybe they're on the phone with Trump and Netanyahu right now trying to get some type of a deal negotiated right here. Meta, that's up 1.3% as well. SATL, that's green. Bloom is also green. Satellogic up another 10%. That was up 40% last week. GE Veranova, that is up another 3%. What do you think about Sora being shut down by OpenAI? I think it's a great idea. They did not have the GPU allocation to be able to fund people scrolling through AI slop. It seemed inevitable that it was eventually going to end. I was actually, I mentioned Sora ironically yesterday in the morning saying what happened to Sora. And then by the afternoon, OpenAI had canceled it. So I mean, it makes sense. There's so many other use cases of AI that ChatGPT can focus on, like Codex in the enterprise. BMR did launch Maven today. We talked about that. BMR right there up 3.87% on the day. Ethereum, 2180. Dell, is this a 52-week high? 180 freaking 3. That is absolutely a 52-week high, and that is not just a 52-week. That is an all-time high. All-time was 184. We're at 182.91. Wow. I mean, they definitely beat earnings and deserved a pump, but I think that SMCI controversy just led the market to think Dell's going to take a lot of that business. Zeta's up 4% as well, and that's created some momentum. Bloom up 3% of the day. Navitas up 5% of the day. Dude, what's red? Everything's going green. It's one of those days so far. Ondas just went red by a couple cents. Okay, SanDisk and Micron, we talked about why they're red already. There's a fundamental reason. VG obviously is red if oil prices come down. Disney is Disney. KB Homes is down 4%. They had bad earnings, but they're in the real estate space. Obviously, the earnings cycle is not good for housing right now. I mean, you're seeing some pretty decent green. Yes, VIX is down. That's fair. Starbucks is up. The Qs are up. Pinterest is up. Amcor is flat. Verizon, your value stocks are, Verizon's red. Coca-Cola is red. What's the large cap value ETF? Is it VTV? Yeah, VTV. VTV is slightly up on the day, 198. That's the Vanguard value one. Some of the semi names are down. That's correct. Again, Micron is red because Google came out with an algorithm. They put out a blog post this morning decreasing the necessity, not decreasing the necessity, but making the memory they have on the chips more efficient, which as a byproduct decreases the necessity for potential HBM demand. And you know, the market's first interpretation is to sell off the memory names based on that. Microsoft, she's going red. She's trying to hold on. You see that red candle right there? It was at 376. Oh, ARM. We got to talk about ARM. Okay, so let me know in the chat if anyone's in ARM. This thing was at 100 in the beginning of the year. It's now at 155. ARM came out yesterday. They do about $4 billion of revenue a year. ARM said we are going to 5x that in the coming years. And we have a new chip that essentially is going to be competing with NVIDIA and AMD, more AMD than NVIDIA on the CPU side. And I mean, they just put out a ton of arguments on the math of their new AGI CPU, that's what it's called, which will address data crunching needed for a specific type of AI that is able to act on behalf of users with minimal oversight. They are assuming the company, quote, projects that the new chip business will generate over $15 billion in annual revenue within the next 5 years, which is 3x or more than 3x the amount of revenue they're doing annually today. So, I mean, ARM deserves to be up on this news. And, you know, it's one of the semiconductor. It's good to have more competition in the ecosystem. $160 billion market cap. That stock getting some momentum. 154 on the day. All Max 7 are green. That is correct. Amit, what's your opinion on VCX? I got in pre-IPO at $13 a share from SoFi Private Equity Investments. If I got into VCX at $13 a share and that sucker's at $450, I'm out. Never mind. It's at $500 now. Having said that, I think you have a 6-month lockup period, Brizen, and I don't know if you're easily able to get out. But at the end of those 6 months, if this thing is anywhere near where it is, I'm pressing the sell button. Like, it's not even a question. You know, you got it at 13, it's 500. But that is the thing that sucks. Like, the thing is, so now you have to wait 6 months for the house of cards to not fall down. And 6 months is a long time. I mean, 6 hours is a long time in the stock market. So 6 months for this, it's almost like this VCX thing is fake, because unless you bought it after the IPO, which even if you bought it at $100 or like $50, who cares, right? Because now it's at 500. You can trade it however you want. But if you got in before, you're stuck. And like the risk of this thing going right back down to the IPO price, which I don't think it would happen, but you know, substantially dropping from here, it's there over 6 months. Anything could happen. So yeah, I guess you can't sell, but it is one thing that I think a lot of people would want to get out of soon. Ondas goes green again on the day, 1.8%. In 6 months, you have to say that Burry was right. Well, look, maybe I will have to say that in 6 months, but guys, Burry deleted his Twitter account. He is not on X anymore. Someone told me this yesterday. I was like, there's no way. They're like, yep, he's gone. Now, I don't know if he is taking a sabbatical, if he needs to, I don't know. I don't know the guy. All I'm saying is, as soon as the market starts to go back up again and Palantir doesn't go to 50 like he said, and Adobe goes, you know, to 52-week lows, and GameStop ends up not really doing anything, that's when he deletes his account. So I don't know. Maybe he'll be back, but it was quite interesting to see him leave the platform after being so public on it over the past couple of months. S&P 658. He's still on Substack. His Substack is still there, but his X account is gone. Now, I think he'll be back, but I don't know. It's just kind of weird that, you know, when Palantir gets back to 160 and Adobe goes to the lows, he disappears. Well, who knows? Maybe something else is going on. IGV 1.4. IGV 1.4 on the day. So IGV software still catching a little bit of a bid, and you're starting to see a bit more momentum. GameStop, they missed earnings. They beat on earnings, but they missed on revenue yesterday, and that was the kind of core issue for how some of this stuff ends up playing out. CoreWeave is green. CoreWeave is up 3.86%. 3.86%. He said on Substack he has to read 1,000 SEC filings. Maybe that's why he left. Maybe, honestly, maybe he's just busy, bro. Maybe it's just a little ironic on how busy he is. Now, granted, I think Adobe will be fine. I mean, at the end of the day, it's too cheap, but I don't know when the hell this thing is going to get a rebound. 239. The fact that it's not even getting a little bit of a bid today, it's up 21 cents even after those earnings is crazy. Salesforce up 1.29%. Is the London meetup happening? Yes, it'll happen in August. Oh, by the way, for the Singapore meetup, so one thing I forgot to mention yesterday, if you are going to the Singapore meetup, we have the date actually for Saturday, the 27th. I don't know why my website said the 26th, but we can do it the 26th if people need it to be the 26th. So if anyone's going to the Singapore meetup, just you can reach out to me. You can put in the chat or just DM me which one's better, Saturday or Friday. I think we're leaning towards Saturday because if people are flying in, then Saturday would be better than Friday. But Saturday the 27th should be the date. And yeah, it looks like that's what we are going to be doing for Singapore. Again, akmedia.news. That is the website to get all the updates on that. Iran's up 1%, Grab's up 2.5%, Nebius is up. Rocket Lab is, wow, 9%, folks. 9%. This is on the SpaceX IPO. This is on the SpaceX IPO. Which month for Singapore is June. The location is on the website. If you click RSVP, you'll get the data for the location. 72 on Rocket Lab, so it looks like SpaceX is giving it some momentum. We have a new politician disclosure. Representative Tim Moore of North Carolina. He sells Krispy Kreme D-Nut. I didn't even know this guy owned D-Nut. $50,000 worth of D-Nut is what he sold. I don't know what these stocks are that he bought. He bought CBRL, 50,000. Oh, this is Cracker Barrel. Okay, so he bought Cracker Barrel. He bought LGIH, 100,000. He bought HOG, Harley Davidson, 50,000, and then he bought SMPL, Simply Good, 15,000. So no tech. He sold Krispy Kreme. He bought Cracker Barrel and Harley Davidson. Micron, lows of the day, 373. 373. Why did this guy own Krispy Kreme, dude? Some of these politicians, a little weird, some of the stuff that they do. Oh, wow. U.S. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum says we bought back $100 million in physical gold from Venezuela. All right. So it looks like we are adding to the gold reserves in the United States by buying back some more gold right here. Rocket Lab, again, up 10% based on the SpaceX IPO. ASTS is at 94.32. That is up 8.4% now on the day. Do we have any more macro data coming out? It's 9:53. I don't think we have anything crazy. The biggest thing, and we'll talk about it again, is the import-export prices. Do we have anything here? No. We have the mortgage index already. So tomorrow we'll get the what do we need? The initial jobless claims, but the import-export prices are the highest since 2022 that came out this morning. It's not bullish. That's definitely more inflationary, but the market and the ceasefire news doesn't care. Genuinely, the market and the ceasefire news does not care. And so maybe that's enough to keep it going. Nebius going red. Are the neoclouds going red? Where's Oracle? Oracle is up. Oracle's back below where it was before earnings. So 170 back down to 148. GameStop's up 1%. Microsoft's up 0.5%. Micron's still down 5%. Tesla 392. Figma's up a little bit, although that's down from where it was yesterday. Shopify's up 2.9%. And then the banks holding on as well. Iran has not agreed to the ceasefire talks by Pakistani officials. Yeah, I mean, the Pakistanis, the Iranians, they all came out and rejected it, which, look, they're going to reject it. The question is, the really weird thing, again, we are not up 1% on the S&P today because of the SpaceX IPO or something. It's because the market believes the ceasefire has some legitimacy to it. Now, as soon as we start going red, maybe the market starts to doubt that. But for the past 12 hours, we've held the green because the market believes in it. And maybe it fades. It's a choppy market. Adobe just went red. We should be used to the fading by now, but it seems like no matter what the Iranians or the Pakistanis say, the market to some extent believes it. Circle, Kathy Wood bought 40 million of Circle yesterday. So Kathy bought the dip. Circle up 7% today. It's not a full rebound from yesterday, but it's still a pretty aggressive rebound. Another update right here. Iran told the UN Security Council and the International Maritime Organization yesterday that non-hostile ships may pass safely through the Strait of Hormuz, likely the gift from Iran Trump was touting in remarks at a White House press event. In its note, Iran defined non-hostile vessels as those which neither participate nor support acts of aggression against Iran. Thailand's foreign minister said on Tuesday that a Thai ship passed through the Strait of Hormuz, following discussions with the Iranian authorities. Marine traffic reports 9 vessels passed on March 23rd. This represents 94 to 95% of a decrease from the pre-conflict average of 120 to 130 vessels per day. See, that type of news is what can really hurt the S&P. 9 vessels passed 2 days ago. The average is 130. Because again, going back, the ceasefire, no ceasefire, like as Sam was saying yesterday on the close, the market only cares about the Strait of Hormuz being open. And so whatever potential end or negotiation that Trump is having, if the Strait of Hormuz opens up, market's happy. If it stays closed, even with the idea of a ceasefire, at some point the market's going to be like, okay, ceasefire, but like we gave you some love. Now you got to give it back to us. Where's the oil? And if the oil doesn't come in, then prices will continue, to be up. MicroStrategy, is that green on the day? MicroStrategy is green, up 5% again. They did file for a 21 billion ATM, so they likely will be diluting more as well. Non-hostile vessels. So Thailand, I guess, has nothing to do with this whole war, which is why they were allowed to pass through. But that is just not enough oil. Rocket Lab, 10%. 10%. Robinhood, 7%. Continuing to get some momentum. Yes, Meta was fined $375 million over child safety in New Mexico. Meta losing $600 right here. Ultimately for Meta, it's something they would pay without worrying about. But, that also could be a broader headline that the street is not necessarily happy about when it comes to how Meta is operating. But realistically, this Reality Labs headline today, along with the avocado delay of of the model, Siri is also being delayed as well. That is what's putting pressure on Meta. This stock was $740 after earnings, bro. Completely round tripped. AMD up 5%. Complete round trip from that pump, even though guidance, has not changed. ASTS as well. Yep, that's up 9%. That is up 9%. AWS has launched a lot of agentic solutions, causing a drop in software and software services. We saw that from Claude yesterday. Oracle came out and they announced some new agent stuff as well. Didn't really make an impact on Oracle. But again, software was down yesterday based on these Claude updates, which is, the market is a bit more worried than not about what Claude is going to be able to do. And I guess that's why Anthropic is, catching the bit. By the way, the underwriters of these IPOs must be salivating, looking at retail momentum on something like Fundrise up 1,000% in a week. And they must be thinking, dude, we got to get this company public as soon as possible. If retail is bidding up a private fund by 1,000% in 3 days, what would happen when the company actually goes public? How much retail excitement would be there? So I don't know. I think it's kind of important to analyze how the broader market's going to be thinking of this long term. CrowdStrike right there, 395. Chewy did have good earnings. They beat on the top and the bottom. Chewy as well. Wow, 15%. I don't know it was that good of an earnings. Chewy right there is up. Looks like revenue is a pretty healthy beat. Chewy, again, they sell pet food. CoreWeave still going up. Pinduoduo missed EPS by 17%, missed revenue by 2%. PDD is up 6%. Market doesn't care. Chewy missed EPS by 4%. They beat revenue by about 1%. I mean, those numbers are not horrible, but I don't know why the stock is up 15% right here. Maybe the short float is also pretty heavy. Chewy up 15% on the day. Do you think this holds today, Amit? I mean, what do people think? I feel like if the ceasefire news continues to be perceived as legit, yeah, I think we hold. But as soon as the market gets a whiff of this ceasefire thing isn't real, which, again, all the headlines are there to say it's not real. It's not like we need new headlines to make the argument that it's not real. 55% of you said more green today in the poll. 22% said red. 24% said we stay flat. Iranian TV, Iran will end the war at time of its own choosing. Iran will end the war only if conditions are met. See, the fact that they're even saying we want to end the war, even though they're saying, well, it has to be under conditions, it's like, okay, sure, you have to say that. But the fact that they're even admitting that they're open to ending the war, maybe that's enough for the market to think that it's going to be able to come to an end. But we did lose a decent chunk on the S&P, 660 to 655. 30 minutes into it, maybe now is when the market starts really questioning these ceasefire headlines. Did you see their demands to end the war? Yes, they want reparations, and they want like a promise that the United States will never strike them again. Obviously, the United States can't promise that, and the reparations stuff I think is actually kind of possible if you just release the sanctions. But the two demands they have are things that I don't know the U.S. and Israel are going to necessarily agree to. And that could be a broader issue. The VIX is moving up. Let me pull it up right here. The VIX is Fundrise is at 556. It's up 76% now. The VIX is, well, the VIX was down 7. Now it's, no, VIX was down 6. Now, well, 6.5. Now it's only down 2. So just moved 5%, 26.24 on the VIX just now. Lunar, that one's making a move. Lunar, wow, 20%, dude. This is all SpaceX IPO. This is all SpaceX IPO. Wow, Iranian press TV citing an official, Iran reviewed the proposal and considers them excessive. That's actually the first headline we have of Iran like responding to all of the different tenets of the agreement. The fact that they're, you know, they don't agree with it, but the fact that they're saying, hey, we reviewed it. Like, we got your email. We don't agree with any of it, but we opened it. Like, they opened the message. That in and of itself. That, well, hold on. That means that Trump definitely, for everyone denying that Trump didn't send an agreement or a ceasefire, like the New York Times thing was fake news yesterday. I mean, if the Iranians are saying we got a proposal and we reviewed it, the United States absolutely sent the first text. And now we're waiting for them to text back. But we did indeed send the first text. Iranian official, the first condition for the end of war is the end of attacks and assassinations. Okay, yeah, so obviously they want the United States to calm down with the aggression. VRT, new all-time highs, 280. That's green. That is also green. But they don't care, so why does that even matter? Because that's negotiating, right? Like, the first offer is never going to be the first offer that the other side looks at, but the fact that they're willing to look at it, you know, and hit you with a counteroffer, that's the art of negotiating. Like, and so maybe there is some, whether it's through Pakistani intermediaries or maybe there is some level of high-level negotiations happening. Again, whether that's good for the Iranian regime, whether that's good for American democracy, I don't know or care about any of that. What it's potentially good for is oil prices going down, opening the Strait of Hormuz, and the stock market being able to price in the potential end to all of this. Which, if it happens by the end of this week, would be ironic, because Trump did say on Monday, hey, it would be done in 5 days. But I think it might take more than 5 days. So I guess we got to see. Iran read the art of deal. Yes, they they read the art of the deal. Fastly, that's up 5.2% today. This is one of the best software names today as well. And that's why it's green. And it just wants his bags to pump. Yeah, pretty much, dude. I just honestly, like, told you guys, I don't care about politics. And I'm not here to impose my political beliefs. So even if I do have political concerns about everything that's happened, I don't need to say them because you guys don't care. I don't care. And that's not the goal here. But what we all do care about is the market. And I mean, we have an earnings season coming up. If that earnings season doesn't get hit by any consumer demand or oil prices going up, which I don't think it will because it's only happened in the past 30 days, we're going to have some pretty damn good earnings. And if we have a good macro backdrop, now we still have a lot of issues. We have unemployment, we have inflation, we got a lot of shit we got to deal with. But if we can get rid of this whole war thing, that would be nice. That would be very nice. White House working to arrange meeting in Pakistan this weekend to discuss war off-ramp. So I saw that headline yesterday as well. That one hasn't been confirmed by a lot of news sources. But I mean, that means Pakistan's not lying either. That means they're involved in the intermediation of all this, which potentially could have some momentum to see if this ends. Let's get a little bit of an update on that Pakistan headline as well.
Well, Alicia, I wish I could give you perfect clarity, but there is a lot of confusion right now about exactly who's talking to who and what they are proposing. Not long ago this afternoon, President Trump said that Marco Rubio was talking to the Iranians, which is the first time we've heard that. And then he listed Witkoff and Kushner and I think a couple of other names. It's hard to know whether he was throwing names out, whether he's talking about serious conversations as opposed to maybe, kind of superficial contacts that are exploring the possibility of more serious dialogue. But a couple of things are clear, I would say, and noteworthy. Number one is that, President Trump, although the military campaign continues, I think is very clearly looking for a way out of this, right? He set a deadline going into the weekend. He extended it on Monday morning, and many people say he did that because he wanted to prevent the markets from crashing. But he's talking about talking, and he is not ruling that out. And
that's quite literally the same thing I think we've been talking about for the past couple of days. If Trump is talking about talking, we've been through this playbook so many freaking times. When he starts this idea of we want to talk to them, we want to come to the table, we want to get their deal, literally admitting Rubio's negotiating, either he's flat out lying or he legit is trying to get an off-ramp. CoreWeave up 5%. And if he is trying to get an off-ramp, the market's going to try to price that in before it's obviously announced. S&P 657. 657. Palantir, are we still green? Palantir 158.71. That one is also still green. Okay, I think we have a direct response from Iran. Is this it? Yes, okay. Direct response from Iran. This is from their state media. These are the 5 bullet points. I'm reading it word for word. A complete halt to aggression and assassinations by the enemy, number 1. Number 2, the establishment of concrete mechanisms to ensure that the war is not reimposed on the Islamic Republic. Number 3, guaranteed and clearly defined payment of war damages and reparations. Number 4, the conclusion of the war across all fronts and for all resistant groups involved throughout the region. Number 5, international recognition and guarantees regarding Iran's sovereign right to exercise authority over the Strait of Hormuz. Not necessarily things that they haven't said before, but this is the official 5-point agreement that they have just laid out. This is from Press TV, so this is from Iranian state media, so we at least know that it's definitely coming from the Iranians here. Okay, so basically they want things to go back to where they were before the war started. And this is why this negotiation is going to be a little tough, because S&P getting a red candle right there, because I mean, Trump needs to get out of this war and say he got something out of this. And if they don't give up their nuclear weapons program, if they don't give up some flexibility over the Strait of Hormuz, if they definitely don't instill democracy and have a liberated Iran, which is probably not happening. I mean, what did we get out of doing this will be the number one question that people ask, especially if we have to pay reparations, which is going to be more money that we spend after we've already spent billions of dollars on the war itself, which maybe we pay for by lifting sanctions, but that means we're just giving more revenue to the Ayatollah, which I think a lot of people will objectively ask the question, what the hell did we get out of this? And so there's no way these 5 tenets are going to work as the basis for negotiating. Trump's going to have to get some concession. And I don't know. I guess it's up to Rubio and Vance to figure out what that concession could be like. They're paying us back in oil. Maybe. I mean, if we have to still pay for the oil, then we wouldn't be really getting paid back. And it Meta right there, 597. But maybe that's part of the deal. I mean, I think the number one thing Trump wants to get out of this, just based on analyzing everything he said, is get rid of the nuclear weapons program. If Iran doesn't unconditionally agree to get rid of that nuclear weapons program, I don't think there's going to be a deal. But I guess we're going to see in the coming days if there is something. The takeaway from all of this, whether or not the deal terms are set in stone, is that there is a conversation. And that's what I think the market is more happy about.
Has been constructive, but hasn't really cleared any hurdles to say that we're out of the trough and that we've actually reasserted the uptrend. But, you know, you have the makings of that. Another 2 or 3%, we could be talking about something like that. Well, let's talk more about the market reaction to the latest Iran headlines. Joining us now is Jim Paulson, former chief investment strategist at the Luthor Group and author of Paulson.
On days like today or in the last few days. And so the market, there's risk on both sides of this trade. You know, it was an interesting conversation you and Sarah having earlier about the other parts of beyond oil that's starting to rise. And I think that's true. It bleeds out. But I point out a couple things about this oil spike so far. The WTI is at $88. That's up about 35% over the last year. And I have recently just went back for the last 40 years and looked at 8 other oil spike induced inflation pickups in the CPI. This is among the smaller ones of that. If you look at those, we've had 100% increase over a previous year period that led to much higher inflation. This type of oil price gain so far has led to just modest increases in the CPI in the past. If it sticks at that level. In addition to that, most of those spikes in the past that I isolated were when growth was much stronger in the economy. Real GDP growth might have been 3 or even 4% during some of those spikes. What we have today is an oil spike when real GDP is only 2% year on year, and when productivity over the last year is 2.5%, which means that the entire growth rate of real GDP in the last year is due to productivity, which is the most disinflationary growth you can have. So I wonder if, you know, we're not that we won't have some inflationary fallout if it stays here, but I wonder if it might be a little less than we expected. Yeah.
I mean, there is a fair point that it might be less than expected, even if we do have some inflationary fallout. But his argument about GDP, I mean, that's a great point. And obviously, higher levels of inflation don't help when it comes to nominal GDP growth that we are all looking for. S&P right there is 657.35 as that continues to go green. RVI, yep, that is pumping. Wow, 23%. All right, so there you go. If you bought into any of these venture funds, this is the moment you're looking for. The Fundrise Growth Fund thing is now up. VIX just collapsed, by the way. It's now up. Well, it's kind of down. It was at 570, now it's at 520. Still up 67% on the day. That is the only reason why the Robinhood Ventures Fund is getting a pretty big move right there. The Destiny Tech 100 DXYZ, that's also up 18.7%. So their NAV is $19.97. They're trading at $31.40. DXYZ, I think they have a stake in SpaceX as well. So that is trading at basically 2 times NAV. Fundrise is trading at like 30 times NAV. And then Robinhood's RVI fund is trading at, let me do the math, 28.28 X to premium to NAV, so 28% premium to NAV. Again, people are free to do what they want. I just think that there's a lot of public stocks that are cheap, and this chasing of private names is confusing to say the least. I mean, this is the type of shit that makes it feel like 2021, and I don't think we're in 2021 at all. I think there's just this fundamentally different macro environment, but when people chase Stripe at 160 billion or Anthropic at 10 trillion, like it's just, it becomes way too euphoric. Like I personally don't like seeing this stuff. But I guess SpaceX and OpenAI and Anthropic, those IPOs are too juicy for people to resist. Lilly, where is Lilly right here? Lilly's at 913. That's up 1.3% on the day. It has zero liquidity. Well, that's the other thing. I mean, again, people are in the lockup. So RVI is no lockup, which is good. But if you're pre-IVO for Fundrise, it is lockup. Amit's talking like a boomer. Maybe, but that's okay. I'd rather talk like a boomer and be scared of buying stuff that's up 1,000% in a week than being like, well, you know, it's a fantastic opportunity because Anthropic is going to be a fundamental shift in the architecture of how we think of AI. So paying $7 trillion for that, you know, it makes sense because long-term it'll be worth 150 trillion. You know, that's, you know, there's that type of analysis. And then there's the, you know, I'm going to hold back on this one. AMD 219. AMD 219. So you're saying it's that simple? I can put all my private investments into a fund, launch the fund, and then get 50x MNAV. Yes. Apparently. I mean, shout out to the Fundrise people. They pumped the hell out of it. I don't know what they did to get retail this excited. They obviously had to have a marketing strategy that was pretty strong to get retail. I mean, look, there's a lot of places to get Anthropic exposure. So I don't know what the hell Fundrise did to convince all of retail that they are the best way to get freaking exposure to Anthropic and SpaceX and OpenAI, but they marketed the hell out of it, and now it's a question of if they can maintain a 30x premium to their NAV. I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe 3,000% premium is possible. But maybe it's not. Polymarket traders estimate a $2 trillion SpaceX IPO in the next 100 days. Wow. So the Polymarket guys are betting this thing goes to $2 trillion in the next 100 days. Isn't Fundrise Tom Lee? No, Fund Strat is Tom Lee. In fact, Tom Lee was taking shots at Fundrise yesterday. Tom Lee got pissed off about it. And, you know, Tom Lee doesn't really get confrontational, but even yesterday on X, he was like, guys. Now, he's trying to get people to buy orbs, which is obviously cheaper. But even this guy is like, dude, really? You guys are paying 25x MNAV for OpenAI and Anthropic when you can buy orbs, which has a 1x MNAV? So, I mean, even Tom Lee is just like, this is getting kind of stupid now. But regardless, private markets are continuing to get attention. What other headlines do we have? Let's see what's happening with macro. Again, for those that are asking what happened with memory, Micron and SanDisk, Google came out with this new algorithm that changes the way that they potentially would be thinking of memory demand. At least that's how the market is interpreting it. That's why that stock, or that's why Micron and SanDisk are getting hit. 6x potential decline in the necessity for needing HBM, given it becomes more effective. Another headline I thought was really interesting today: Meta is targeting a $9 trillion valuation over the next 5 years with new executive incentive programs. This was really interesting. As per the Wall Street Journal, they're trying to incentivize their top executives to grow the company to $9 trillion, which would be about a 4x from here. At an extremely aggressive pace, 5 years, to get the full value of these stock options for the CTO, CFO, CEO, all the C-suite, they would have to pay $9 trillion, which, or they would have to get to $9 trillion, which if you're a Meta shareholder, you've got to be loving that, right? You've got to be loving that. By the way, this is that Google post about TurboQuant, their new compression algorithm that reduces key value cache memory by at least 6x. So that's another thing about this whole AI movement here, right? Yes, we will have Technical Wednesday today with Jason. It's showing you that the Mag 7 feel they have an opportunity, which is why they're spending all this freaking money on CapEx, to massively grow the enterprise value of the company. I mean, if Meta is legit thinking they can 4x or 4x in 5 years, I mean, that's not normal for any company to 400% go up as a $1.5 trillion company in 5 years. And so, you know, maybe it's too ambitious, but if they think the scale of the opportunity with AI is so massive that they could reasonably trade at 25, 30 times earnings at a $9 trillion valuation, that means they're going to put up a lot of earnings to, you know, if they trade at like a 300 times earnings, then obviously it's really, it's like floppy, right? So it's flipped around how you think of the valuation because it's not a normal Mag 7 valuation. But if they trade at the current PE they add with a little bit more of a premium, they're going to be putting up massive hundreds of billions of dollars of net income to be able to get that $9 trillion valuation, which is bullish. Now, Tesla already gets a pretty premium valuation without putting up those earnings. And even Elon thinks he can, you know, take the stock to 10 trillion for his compensation package. But if all these Max 7 companies can put up, I mean, Jensen said yesterday, why can't we do $3 trillion in revenue? All of these guys are thinking we can do a lot more revenue. We can have a reasonable multiple and people would still be willing to buy our stock at $9 trillion because we'd be putting up enough earnings where even if you pay 30, 32 times earnings, which is normal for those companies, it would be a good deal. Which would be pretty freaking incredible. U.S. State Department approves possible foreign military sale to Belgium to buy communications equipment for an estimated $156 million. Okay, it looks like we're selling some more military equipment to the Belgians. Adobe right there, that's still down on the day. Sorry, that's a 6x in 5 years. That's correct, because 1.5 times 6. A 4x would only be 6 trillion. So yeah, they're talking about 600% on the market cap with incentives to get the executives to work towards that. I mean, it's got to make you excited as a shareholder. Did Lisa Su is that true? Do we have a Time CEO of the Year? Did they announce it today? Last year it was Lisa Su, right? 2020. Well, no, that was 2024. When do they usually announce it? I think they announce it towards the end of the year. They did have a Time magazine cover the other day with a bunch of the AI people. I don't think they had CEO of the Year yet, though. And put in the chat, who do you think should win the CEO of the Year? I know it's only a couple months into the year, but I'd be curious to see who ends up winning it. Neil Mohan, I thought he was a different category, or was he? No, they did. 2025, Neil Mohan. Yeah, he was the CEO of the Year. Oh, yeah, so they're not going to announce this for a while. They're going to announce this in December, so we don't have the 2026 one yet, but look, Neil is awesome, CEO of YouTube. YouTube's great, but that's kind of crazy, bro. Like, there's a lot of other CEOs that are out there. I wonder who will get 2026. I don't think Jensen's won it yet. Or did Jensen win years ago? Karp has never won it. Elon's never won it, I think. Yeah, maybe the Anthropic CEO wins it. Ondas, that's up 1.59% as well. Rocket Lab up 12% on the day. SATL is up 20.4%. Do you think this is a DeepSeek moment for memory? I do not know enough about memory to say that. However, it feels awfully familiar to what happened during DeepSeek. It's just inference becoming cheaper and more inference being needed means you need more GPUs. That's become kind of obvious. NVIDIA has shown that with their growth. There's not that many people that can provide the GPU. With memory, there's a lot of people that can provide it. And the compression algorithm that Google's talking about, I mean, yeah, you might need a lot more memory, but if it's commoditized and the memory becomes more efficient, you might not have the supply glut that's existed, even if you still need a lot of it, which is the reason these stocks have squeezed. The reason the stocks have squeezed is because the logic is there's not enough. If there is enough, even if you need, like if you get rid of the supply issue, even if there's a ton of demand, the pricing power and the leverage to create those gross margins doesn't exist anymore theoretically, because there's plenty of demand, there's plenty of supply, there's no real squeeze, so it becomes commoditized, which is what memory has always been. I don't know if that necessarily happens here, but the market's acting like that could happen. Palantir right there is up 2%. Robin Adventure is up 21% on the day. Micron now only down 2%. It was down 5%. Yeah, Sundar, dude, he had the best Max 7 last year in terms of stock price, and he didn't win it either. Sundar, I feel like, continues to get overlooked. We don't talk about him enough. But he's a phenomenal CEO. NVIDIA, 180. 180. There we are. We are back. Back to 180. Back to 180 Dolores on the day. Micron is still at 387. Lilly's at 1%. S&P, we need to break above 660. We are not yet. Planet Labs, is that still down? That flipped green. Okay, that was a red on the day, which was weird because Rocket Lab was up. So Planet Labs up 11. Rocket Lab up 12. ASTS up 9. You know, I actually bought Rocket Lab last night. I was on my phone. It was like 7 p.m. when the SpaceX headline came out. Rocket Lab was at $68. I was like, dude, it's going to pump. Like, it's going to pump, right? Like, there's no way it's not going to pump. And I almost bought it. I legit almost bought 2,000 shares last night. I was like, you know what? It could pump. And I probably should have, just to trade it. Again, I already have Rocket Lab. I kind of didn't want to add more, but Here's the thing. I mean, what if the SpaceX IPO doesn't go as well and this goes down? I mean, like we've seen Rocket Lab in this range from 60 to 75 so many freaking times. So if I bought it, I would have told you guys because I'd be selling it right now. I'd take my $5 and leave. But at least the tradable position, the long position is going to stay. I don't know. I still am a little scared of some of this stuff, dude. It feels a little euphoric. And I guess the space names are making a move off SpaceX, but there's not any other fundamental reason that was announced today for them to make a move. Where's Quantum? Where has Quantum been this year? D-Waves down 50%. It's up 2% on the day. I don't hear a lot of people talking about Quantum as much anymore, given the stocks have taken a hit, which might be the opportunity. D-Wave's down 41% this year. Rigetti is down 32% this year. IONQ is down 27% this year. Is anyone buying the dip on Quantum? Or are people kind of just playing this out? Zeta, that's up 4.5%. You should have bought the 2X Rocket Lab. Dude, I have a friend who freaking texted me 2 days ago and he bought options on RKRX. That's what it is, right? Or RX something. I was like, you are such a freaking degenerate, dude. But it's working. He's up. He's up. He's freaking up. I think he literally bought it on Friday or freaking Monday when Rocket Lab was like 63. Yeah, it's not just the 2X ETF. It's options on the 2X ETF. It's the beautiful thing about conviction, dude. And he's done this many times. He's made a lot of money off Rocket Lab. Like he's played Rocket Lab for the past 3 years and he has printed on it. But like when you know a stock so well, sometimes you get to know the inner gist of how the stock operates. You know, like you become synergistic with the stock. You become one with the stock. That's what it felt like last year with Hood. It's like I would know when it's like time to stay away a little bit, then I would know when it's time to lean in. It's like you just kind of feel it. And it doesn't last forever, but when it does, you can make a lot of money. Like it becomes a part of you. 657 S&P. Laura says, I've been adding to my QBTS. A couple of you guys saying you've been adding. Yeah, like Tesla. I mean, a lot of you guys had that experience with Tesla, right? Back in 2019, 2020. Dude, I should have a lot of Tesla. I need to pull up my Rob. I need to show you guys the receipts of how much Tesla I freaking bought when I was a senior in college. I just ended up selling it because I was an idiot and I had no idea what I was doing. And like, okay, the problem is, look, this is not going to show the pre-split version. It's saying 997, but what's the, so when I was buying it, so can someone tell me, well, I could just do this. When it was June 2020, what was the price of Tesla? So basically I was buying it June 2020. Oh my God, I was buying it at $50. I was buying this shit at $50. Look at this. Look at this. Look at all these buys. Like all these shares would have, like they did split like 3 times, right? It would be like at least 200-300 shares. Like I was legit buying this shit. Like 13,000, 14,000. Like I maybe had like, I don't know, 25,000 in it, which is not a lot. I get it, but I was buying. I didn't know what the hell I was doing with it. Again, this is when I was senior and it was all the money I had. I didn't even know anything about Tesla. I was just like, oh, Elon, Tesla, cool. But like, I didn't know how to handle the position. I don't know how to manage it. Rocket Lab 74. Yeah, I could not spell HODL. Dude, I was literally buying it without even understanding. Like Palantir was the first stock I started buying and actually holding and like understanding what I'm doing. Tesla was just like, I think Tesla is important. And you know, I'll never forget one of my friends because I remember I bought it at 300. It went to 600 in like 2 months. And he was like, you should sell. You should take some profits. And I was like, why? He was like, you're up $300. And so I did. I was like, yeah, I made $300. And then I see this thing go up to fucking 2,000 a share 5 months later. That's when Tesla did the 20X, right when like the COVID stimulus started coming out. And I was like, oh, I'm never listening to that friend again. Ever. But I should have a lot more Tesla. Palantir right there, 158.90. Meta 600. Hoodie at 74. CNN on senior officials. Trump administration working to arrange a meeting in Pakistan by the end of the week. Wow, okay. That's CNN reporting it now. That's 3 different sources this morning making the argument that Pakistan is going to be the place of intermediation for this meeting. $25,000 is a lot. Yeah, but remember, after I sold those Tesla shares, I paid off my freaking student loans. Not all of them, but I had like 15, 17,000 of student loans I had to pay. This was February 2020. I remember submitting that payment. And then a month later, COVID happened. And then Trump said, you don't have to pay your student loans indefinitely. So I literally, and again, like that 15, 17 grand was a lot of money. If I just threw it into the stock market in March of 2020, I mean, there was a lot of things that 10x'd because we printed $8 trillion, but I paid off my student loans, or at least like 80% of them, a month before. Yeah, the ban got lifted in 2025. Like we had 5 years of interest-free payments of not having to pay those student loans. I thought I was all responsible. I thought I was doing the right thing. It was the dumbest thing, like literally the dumbest thing ever. That money in anything, even if it just was in the S&P, would have done amazing. S&P 658. 658. Egypt's foreign minister says Cairo is talking with Iran to stop attacks on Gulf countries. Okay, so Egypt, we had that headline yesterday as well around their foreign ministry getting involved. Egypt, Turkey, and Pakistan were the three countries that were named as the potential intermediaries. Where's crude? Crude's at 88. We're still down 4% on the day, which is good. The cruise lines are up today, 3.5. The airlines are up today. UAL is up 3.7. Whoa! Is this real? Roaring Kitty is following people on X. This is the first bit of action we've seen from Roaring. Oh, that's what this market needs. This market needs Roaring Kitty to come back. You've got Anthropic at $5 trillion in the private markets and Roaring Kitty. He hasn't posted anything, but he is now following multiple new accounts. His last post was January 2025. Roaring Kitty was the guy who pumped up GameStop back in 2019. He does not follow me. He does not follow me. Bro, see, this is why Cactus is better than the terminal. Cactus, I don't know what source you use to find this shit. But he just sent me a screenshot of an account that tracks what big accounts follow. And Roaring Kitty is active again. Palantir 159. Are we really doing this again? Dude, Chewy, he used to be in it. GameStop, I mean, Burry's in it. By the way, I'm looking at Twitter, Burry's back. He was gone last night. Burry is back. I don't know why he left yesterday, but he wasn't available to find yesterday on X, but now he's right back. So I guess that's kind of interesting. Burry, Roaring Kitty, GameStop. I mean, who knows? Who knows? Chewy right there, up 15%. Chewy, yep, that's up 15%. RVI up 23. That one is still moving. What was your college degree? It was business management, which I don't know if you consider that a real degree, but it was business. Johnson.
And victimized by these senseless, avoidable crimes. We will continue to fight for the rule of law and to call out the madness when we see it. And here's what we will not do. We will not allow Democrats to hold our airports and our country hostage so they can re-implement their catastrophic, deadly open borders policies and threaten the lives of our children. This is common sense versus crazy. Everybody can see it. And they're going to put it on display again tomorrow. As the leader said, we're going to vote to fund Homeland again. And I think that vote tally, that should be blown up. It should be put at poster size in every airport terminal so they can see who voted to keep those lines at TSA winding around the airports and to endanger everybody's lives. Take some questions.
Mr. Speaker.
Right, front row.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaker. Senator Lindsey Graham put out a statement this morning saying that he has consulted with the president and that he plans to move expeditiously on reconciliation, that this second package will deal with funding Homeland, supporting the military, and addressing voter integrity. Do you think that's feasible? And have you, Chair Arrington, had any conversations with Senator Graham?
I talked to Senator Graham last night, and not specifically about this, but other matters. But I'm glad to know the Senate is interested in Reconciliation 2.0. As you know, I have been a broken record. We need to do that. It's an important legislative tool. We already had a set of priorities we're working on in the House, and it is possible that the defense supplemental will be a part of that package, but we don't yet have the details. And I know you all have a lot of questions this morning about what the number is going to be requested, and so do I. We haven't gotten that yet. I think they're tabulating that. I think the Department of War and OMB and the administration are working that out, and I suspect we'll get a specific request. You know, that's how the process works. And then when we get that, we will go through our processes here to review that and look at it and check its feasibility and all of that. But it may be, sadly, and I would say this, it may, and it would be a sad outcome, that we would have to get a military funding bill done with only Republican votes. That's what the reconciliation package would allow. It's quite sad and really shocking and dangerous. Again, Democrats with their crazy policies, they have Trump derangement syndrome. They would not even, I don't even think they would agree to vote on a bill that would simply restock our munitions. We've used some of those, as you know, in Operation Epic Fury. And we've got to do that. It's a necessity. The first job of the federal government is to protect the people. But Democrats, I don't think we can count on their votes to do the simple, basic responsibility of Congress. And so it is part of reconciliation, probably, and we'll see. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, good morning.
You next. Let Chad go first.
On the government shutdown, Mr. Speaker, it seems as though Republicans and Democrats are talking past one another right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is the only person who could solve this the President of the United States, and why isn't he involved?
Well, I think he is involved. I mean, I know he had a group of.
Down the plan yesterday.
Well, that's what's been reported. Okay, he brought some.
He said that in the Oval Office that he was not pleased with that plan.
Well, actually have his exact quote somewhere. I think he said that. To paraphrase him, I think he said he's a little skeptical or cynical that a deal is going to come together. What we're hearing, okay, in our chamber is that there's discussions going on that Democrats are demanding to break off parts of Homeland and fund it separately. I so appreciate Congressman Ciscomani. As he noted, he was in charge of the Homeland bill as it's in its earliest stages coming through the House, and it was a bipartisan bill. Remember, the Democrats agreed with all that. They understood. It's one of the 12 appropriations bills in their annual appropriations packages, and we always have Homeland funded as an entire department. There's obvious reasons for that. It's very important. I don't think we need to be breaking it apart. And so I think that's what the president is reflecting there. He wants Congress to do its dang job. We have done it, the Republicans have, but the Democrats are refusing to go along on that, even though just several weeks ago, they were in favor of it. Now, they don't think it's politically advantageous for them, and they're playing games, and it's endangering the lives of American citizens, and it's causing real hardship for people. Do you know that there are 450, approximate number this morning, we heard 450 TSA agents who are no longer going to work for the agency. How can you blame them? As Leader Scalise said, 49% of FY26, the fiscal year, they have been unpaid. This is a real hardship for their families and all the travelers, business travelers, people traveling to go to funerals and weddings and with their families. They can't get through the airports because the Democrats are playing games up here. And you know what? You should ask the ultimate question: why? Why is Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries? Why are they doing this? Why would they know this is crazy. They have to know it's crazy to not be able to call this out. Why are they doing it? Because they're afraid of their radical base. Boom, that's it. That's why they gave us the longest shutdown in history last fall, and that's why we're on the second longest shutdown in history right now. They are afraid to go to their base and say that they're doing anything that complies with common sense and their basic responsibility because their base is screaming that they're not fighting Trump enough. It's crazy. I don't know another word to describe it. And they're putting everybody in jeopardy, all the inconvenience and all the hardship for their own political skins. That's it right there. Go ahead.
Well, Johnson's pissed off. Let me know if the audio is okay, guys, if you guys can hear the mic fine. I mean, look, it is a blame. Look at AMD, dude, 7%, 218.89. That's getting some momentum. It obviously is a blame game going back and forth. And it's not going to stop being a blame game. I'm sure when Jeffries and Schumer end up holding their press conference, they'll probably accuse the Republicans of also being bad. Tests right there at 393. But we are holding on to the green. Now, look, reconciliation to get a bill passed through Congress is something we talked about yesterday. It seems likely if they can justify the budgetary requirements for the Voting Act. And I mean, they have a majority in the Senate with Republicans. So they, through reconciliation, they could get something passed, which would open up the airports, TSA, DHS funding, et cetera, and pass this sort of ID necessity to be able to vote. But they're not going to get Democratic support. They're going to have to go through reconciliation if they want to end up making that happen. SoFi right there, up 3% as well. And if that ends up happening kind of soon, then, I mean, outside of the whole political stuff around voting ID, the most important thing for people traveling is that TSA gets to get back to work, which even Elon offered $1 billion. Well, he didn't even put an amount on it. We calculated how much it would cost, but he said he'll pay for the salary for a year for all the TSA workers just to get them to go back to work. So it is a big deal, and it's obviously affecting a lot of Americans right here. Egypt's foreign minister on Iran's response to the U.S. plan. We have to continue our efforts. It's all about diplomacy and negotiations. Once again, that's a bullish headline, right? The Egypt foreign minister acknowledging that Iran doesn't like the first proposal by the United States, NVIDIA high of day, but they are willing to be an intermediary along with Pakistan and Turkey to work to figure out a deal that gets both sides of the table to end this war. I mean, it does feel like the markets think it's more legit than not. Speaker Johnson, Operation Epic Fury is almost done. I mean, I think the mission that was very clearly defined in the beginning, the objectives have been met. Okay, I'm not sure everyone's going to agree with that. I think the mission that was very clearly defined in the beginning, the objectives have been met. I think even some Trump supporters will be saying, what objectives did we actually meet? Because let's say the number one objective was we had to dismantle their military, not regime change, not nuclear weapons, which from my understanding were the main two objectives. Let's say it was just dismantle their military. If we open up sanctions, they will rebuild their military within a couple years because they will get so much money. So it feels like and the reason I'm quoting the sort of military destruction is because every time Hegseth goes live, that's what he talks about, right? He talks about their ships are at the bottom of the sea and all this stuff. And so it's like, if that's the objective, I don't know if people are going to fully agree with that objective. This is what Hegseth said yesterday when he was at that conference.
The air campaign that we've conducted, that Israel's conducted alongside us, was one for the history books, truly. And it's because we have a president of the United States that when he sends his warfighters out to fight, he unties their hands to actually go out and close with and destroy the enemy as viciously as possible from moment one. And that's why we see ourselves as part of this negotiation as well. We negotiate with bombs. You have a choice as we loiter over the top of Tehran, as the president talked about your future. The president has made it clear that you will not have a nuclear weapon. The War Department agrees. Our job is to ensure that. And so we're keeping our hand on that throttle as long as hard as is necessary to ensure the interest of the United States of America are achieved on that battlefield. This is the air campaign.
So the question then becomes, what was the objective? If it's nukes going away, then that's got to be the number one thing I think they get out of these negotiations. Johnson was just asked a couple questions specifically about the war. Let me pull it up. This one was about boots on the ground.
There's talk about the Pentagon is supposedly dispatching 2,000 troops. How is that not putting? How is that not putting boots on the ground? And you said we're not at war. How is that not an escalation of war in Iran?
Look, I think it sends a signal to Iran that they better get their act together. We need to resolve this quickly, and that's the president's interest, and that's ours. It's everyone's. We need to. Operation Epic Fury is almost done. I mean, I think the mission that was very clearly defined in the beginning, the objectives have been met. We have to get the Strait of Hormuz straightened out, and we need our international partners to help with that because it's a giant project that involves everybody around the world at some level. So I'm optimistic that's going to happen. The buildup of troops is very different than boots on the ground. We don't have boots on the ground. I don't think that's the intention, but I think Iran should watch that buildup, and they need to take note of that. They have to.
Wow. First time we got some acknowledgement by a White House official about boots on the ground. This is the first time in like 2 weeks we actually got someone to explain what they think about boots on the ground. And Mike Johnson says boots on the ground versus boots being prepared to go on the ground is different. Essentially claiming the Iranians, look at NVIDIA go 180.5. The Iranians should take us very seriously about having troops there, even if we are not putting troops on the ground. Yeah, he called it the buildup of boots. I mean, that's the first time. I mean, Rubio didn't talk about it yesterday. Trump didn't talk about it yesterday. We see so many reports saying we're sending boots on the ground, which conflicts with the whole ceasefire stuff. I guess Johnson's interpretation is that they are there for a reason, and they will be utilized if they need to be utilized. NVIDIA going for it. NVIDIA is going for it. ARM still making a move as well. Look at ARM, 16%. Goodness, dude. That one's making a hell of a move right there. By the way, I'm not sponsored by Nike, even though you guys... like, dude, I bought this, like... This thing I'm wearing is like 5 years old. Like, it is so old. It's not like anything new or anything. I've had it forever. But, yeah, Nike. It's been in a pretty ugly drawdown. Tim Cook even bought $3 million worth of this thing at like 60, 62. That's not been enough. The tariff reversal was not enough. Like nothing has changed Nike. Saidu Space, another small cap space company. Look at that, 23% of the day. This is $190 million. I mean, if this thing isn't evidence that SpaceX is pumping the entire space sector, then I don't know what is. I don't know what is. Maybe why don't you get your own merch? I just think merch is kind of tacky, dude. Like, I've never been a fan of like really seriously trying to do merch. I think I thought about it a while ago, and I don't know. It's just not something interesting to sell. But it's cool. I think the only thing I should be selling is cowbells, to be honest. If you come to the meetup, by the way, you will get a small cowbell with you. If you've been to a meetup before, we give out the cowbells, and so you are required to ring that every morning with me at 9:30. When are you going to start golfing? You know, Steve told me to join a golf club, and I've just been a little busy. But I do, maybe in the summer, want to join it. Johnson was asked, Trump has rallied against mail-in voting. Hold on, we'll pull up this clip. Trump has gone against mail-in voting, but he wants mail-in voting in Florida. This is what Johnson had to say.
President Trump has railed against mail-in voting as rigged. He said it's a form of cheating as recently as Monday. But he's also called on Congress to do away with certain types of mail-in voting in certain circumstances. But in yesterday's special election in Florida, he voted by mail. How do you square those two statements?
Look, I think some states have handled mail-in balloting well. I think Florida is a good example of that. They don't allow fraud, and they have great systems. I mean, I was talking yesterday to Laurel Lee, one of our colleagues here in the House, and she used to help run elections in the state of Florida. And she talked about how many great processes they have in place to ensure that you don't have a lot of fraud. But that is not true in other parts of the country. And that is the concern, especially in a state like California or states where they just send mail-in ballots to everyone for no reason whatsoever. It is a matter of common sense. It is an obvious thing that if you're mailing ballots out, inherently, it opens the door, at least the possibility of fraud. It's
okay. You got Johnson making the argument that some states are good at mail-in voting, other states are bad. Again, that's going to be a hotly debated topic if they end up passing this Voting Save America Act. But that was his response to the argument for why some mail-in voting via those mail-in ballots are acceptable. Pouncer right there, 159.23. ARM still up 17. How about the photonics plays? Are they moving today? AAOI is up another 3%. Light is flat. Coherent is up 2. I mean, dude, we've reclaimed some levels on some of these stocks. Not every stock, but some of these stocks have reclaimed some levels that they lost aggressively 2 weeks ago. AMD, almost 220. Not bad. Hood's holding on to a 7% move. Hims is red, is it? Damn. You know, the Novo thing going away is so bullish, but the shorts do not care. And they have doubled down on this thing. So I don't know if this breaks up to the 30s, like people have been saying. Short float is 40% still after the Novo deal. Whereas VCX, it is $516. So it is not past the high of the day at 570, but still 516. Wow, GEV. Goodness gracious, 945. That's got to be an all-time high, right? This is what, up 30% year to date? 39% year to date, and it is at an all-time high, 945 on GE Veranova. One of the more important names in this broader AI ecosystem. Got oil still coming down. Microsoft, are we down yet? Microsoft, it's about to go red. Trade Desk, by the way, has been getting crushed as well. That one has just not been able to hold up even after the insider buying. Nothing good has happened there. We talked about the Cypher 15-year deal. That's working out well for Cypher today. Oh, PopMart. Remember the company that creates the Labubus? They're down 22% today in Hong Kong because they missed revenue by $900 million. So the Labubu trade worked out last year. Right now, it's on the other side. Amit, if you sell merch, you should sell an audiobook on how to pronounce difficult words. That is hilarious. And quite frankly, that probably should be the only thing that I sell if I ever sell something. 373 on Microsoft. Elon Musk video. I don't think there's an Elon. Oh, no, I was right. There was an Optimus video that was posted. There's not an Elon video, but there was. Okay, let's watch this. I didn't see this last night. So there is a new Optimus video that he posted 10 hours ago.
Every single day I step into the office, it feels like I'm in a sci-fi movie. When you walk in the office, you have bots walking around autonomously. You come in the lab, you have bots doing laundry.
Working on Optimus has shown me how much progress is possible when we're all working towards a common goal.
A lot of the engineers here are exceptionally ready to get lost in the engineering.
It's super exciting to come into work with all these capable people to develop a product that's gonna change the world.
I think Optimus is pretty uniquely positioned in the fact that we care equally about design and manufacturing.
We're solving manufacturing problems that haven't been solved before at the scale that Tesla operates at.
I feel like I'm surrounded by people who are extremely passionate about what they do, and they're really willing to do whatever it takes in order to get the job done.
I feel like I'm empowered to take a design from start to end. Here at Tesla, if the solution you're looking for does not exist, you do have to build it.
So here at this facility, you can expect to be involved in working on gear manufacturing equipment, turning equipment, as well as getting your hands dirty assembling gearboxes that you've designed.
I have a focus on distribution harnesses. They're difficult to automate and scale. A lot of the work here is trying to figure out new technologies that replace harnesses. You would be doing more component level development.
I work on the design and manufacturing of Optimus's hands.
And I work on all the external structures that you see on the bot right here.
I work on the PCBAs on the robots. We are designing high power inverters in a very small form factor.
As we iterate on our robot design and go into Gen 3 and into mass production, we are getting very close to the human functionality and form factor.
It won't even look like a robot. It'll look like a human in a superhero suit.
I think the end goal is going to be something revolutionary. It feels like the extreme sports of engineering.
Well, I'm happy they put out that video because we have gotten zero update on Optimus in any meaningful way over the past couple months. And so just that video alone and showing the engineers and how deeply involved they are, by the way, in video 181 is good because it means that, you know, the ambitions that Elon has around Optimus are real and they're working at it. It's going to take some time. Robots are not easy. But, oh, by the way, we didn't even talk about Amazon. They bought a robot company yesterday. And that robot company is going to be competing against Figure and Apptronic and Optimus. So Amazon has announced Fauna Robotics. They acquired them. The video didn't really have an update. That's fair. The video didn't have an update, but at least it gave some, I guess, exposure to Tesla shareholders that they are indeed working pretty hard on this robot. They bought Fauna Robotics. That's what the humanoid looks like right there. So I'm imagining Amazon is thinking, dude, if people are going to start selling robots, we've also got to get into this game. It makes sense. Amazon's obviously been a massive robotics player. And, you know, a lot of people thought, well, what if Amazon buys Tesla's Optimus for the factories? What if Amazon builds their own robots for the factories and Tesla never ends up becoming a customer? So there's a lot of demand for these robots. But if Amazon builds them themselves, you know, that's a source of revenue that's not going to go to Apptronic or Figure or Tesla just because Amazon wants to keep it integrated vertically. NVIDIA right there, 181, up 3% today. Very nice to see. NVIDIA was at 170 last week. So you're seeing a nice rebound. I mean, it was almost at 170 on Monday. As that's getting moved. Rocket Lab as well. 74. That is green. Oh, yeah. Unitree is planning to IPO. $7 billion in China. That's actually going to be a very reasonable IPO. And Unitree is a legit company. But they are IPOing in China. I don't think U.S. investors will have access to it. So, you know, U.S. investors get to pay $5 trillion for Anthropic and the private VCX funds. But $7 billion, I didn't go through their financials, but $7 billion feels reasonable for something like Unitree, especially given how big they are in China. So that should be a nice one. Dell, are we still holding green? We are indeed, 182.50. VG goes green again. That's actually weird. You would think VG stays red on the day, just flipped green. But that one, not as red as it was in the morning. Satellogic's up. Yeah, Satellogic, dude. 90% this week. I know they had a good earnings, but sometimes you got to be in the right theme. The theme is space. Rocket Lab or SpaceX IPO announced last night as like very close to happening, and space pumps. Space pumps. Adobe, that's still red. CoreWeave's up 7. CoreWeave outperforming Nebius by a wide margin today. Nebius up 2. SMR is up 4. KKR is up 1. Amazon's up 2.5. Oh, let's listen to the OpenAI CFO. She was on last night. Let's see what she's saying about where OpenAI is currently.
Is actually north of $120 billion. As we announced a few weeks back, strategics, NVIDIA, SoftBank, and of course, Amazon. But now we're coming with our financial investors. And what I'm really pleased about is we raise money all around the ecosystem. A16Z in kind of venture, late stage venture, TPG and PE, MGX on the sovereign side, and then these kind of blue chip mutual type complexes like T. Rowe and D. Shaw Ventures. And what I really wanted to show with the round is it didn't matter where you went. People really believed in this AI revolution, and they wanted to put their money to work behind it.
Okay. With this video generation app, OpenAI was competing directly with a rival offering from Google, but Sora's breakout moment didn't really last. The app never became a sticky consumer product, and engagement appears to have fallen off pretty quickly after launch. And with Sora shutting down, Disney's planned $1 billion investment tied to the platform disappears with it. Yet another high-profile deal that never made it off paper. But it's also part of a broader pullback ahead of a potential IPO for OpenAI. They've been moving away from instant checkout shopping, pushing out ads, cutting infrastructure ambitions from $1.4 trillion to less than half that, and folding its browser, ChatGPT app, and Codex into a single desktop super app. So you can think of this like OpenAI's discipline era. It is all about consolidation, with the company trimming those side bets and really focusing its compute and capital on the core business. Sarah?
Yeah, it's interesting, you know, that they have to do that all ahead of the IPO. Thank you, Mackenzie. I know you'll continue to follow it for us. When we come back.
All right, OpenAI getting ready for this damn IPO. I mean, they got to go. They have to go public now. If you've got these private funds trading at 30x NAV, You got SpaceX about to do $2 trillion. If you're OpenAI or Anthropic, you have to go public. You might not have another liquidity event like this for a while. So raising that round, I would imagine by the end of the year, at least Anthropic, maybe OpenAI, but I would imagine both are either end of this year or very early next year. Also, Anduril, I mean, they would probably want to go public as well. We talked about that $20 billion contract. Oh, there was, by the way, speaking of that $20 billion contract, dude, the Anduril stuff is a little sus in regards to how that contract happened. So to take a look at this. This is pretty incredible. Michael Obdahl was Anduril's senior director before President Trump nominated him for Undersecretary of the Army. In a recent filing report, Michael disclosed up to $500,000 in Anduril stock that he kept as he's Undersecretary of the Army. Ethics experts called this unheard of. 6 months later, the Army awarded Anduril a $20 billion contract. Trump Jr.'s fund, Trump's kids, 1789 Capital, is also an investor in Anduril at a $30 billion valuation. Now, look, Anduril is an amazing company, and they were probably going to get a lot of contracts. It's just, again, when the American people see stuff like that, you're talking about Anduril's senior director, talking about a C-suite level guy in Anduril, who then starts to work for the administration. And then magically, a few months later, Anduril gets, I mean, Lockheed and Raytheon did not get that $20 billion contract. When we see this stuff, I think it's also not even like it's not even one of those things to be upset about. It's almost like it is the natural logic of how business mixed with government happens. Like it's obviously corrupt, but it's just like we've seen so many examples of it at this point. Where it's like, oh, all right. Which is, you know, I get the whole wanting to ban politicians from trading stock, but I just don't think it's ever going to happen because these people are too powerful and they have too many connections. And, you know, when you have that insider information, it's hard to give it up. I mean, we've seen it with Nancy Pelosi's entire career. So it's not surprising, but man, every time you see it, it's just weird how it happens so seamlessly. I mean, the biggest example of this was the person who bought $1.5 billion of futures at 650, and then at 7:04, Trump tweeted he's going to delay the attacks. Like, if that was not an insider, like no one puts a $2 billion bet for funsies. Like when you're playing with that type of money, you know something's going to happen. Especially if you're doing it in the futures market. It's not even like they're just buying the S&P share. They're buying these contracts that, you know, eventually have different ramifications on how they need to get rid of them. And then they use the algos as liquidity when everything pumps. Fastly up 9% of the day. Palantir still 158. Was it triple V? It was not triple V. That would be kind of funny though if it was triple V. CoreWeave, that is still up 6.3% on the day. Maybe you're lucky you don't have to deal with office politics. You know, it's interesting. I don't have to deal with bureaucratic office politics. Like I'm sure some of you guys have to deal with your boss and employees that you don't like and coworkers and having to be friendly to people you don't like. But there are different types of politics I have to deal with in the media space that are very akin, similar to corporate bureaucratic politics. Like there's some people that will text me and I have to text them back pretty soon because if I don't, I know they're going to get pissed off and that's just not good to maintain the relationship. Like even when I'm live, sometimes if I get a text, I'm like, oh, I need to respond to that person. Like just like if you're, you know, if your boss texted you right now saying, hey, I need something, you would stop everything you're doing, you would stop watching the show, you would text them back, right? You have to respond. They may not be a boss for me, but Steve, yes, every time Steve texts, I have to respond to it. No, it's like, but there are some people that, you know, like there's some people you've developed a relationship with, you don't want to mess up the relationship and you don't even want to wait multiple minutes to text them back because they've done a lot for you and you want to keep that relationship pristine. So, but it's the same thing. It's like if you had a boss, your girlfriend. Yeah, I would imagine if it was a girlfriend, you probably want to, but no, a girlfriend would be more understanding if you're like live and like, you know, you're working. But some other people, you know, you have big egos. Dude, the amount of egos I have to manage in my life. Like, I realized the other day as we're getting ready for the LA meetup, because I have all these different people that are texting me I'm like, dude, I'm alone all day, but I know a lot of people. Like I know a lot. I talk to a lot of freaking people. I think I talk to like 15 people every day, 15 different people every freaking day. And so I don't have coworkers. I'm not with like a boss or anything like that. But I have so many personalities and egos that I have to manage and make sure people aren't pissed off or people feel that they're not taken for granted. And it's a different type of politics. You haven't met my girlfriend. Oh my gosh. But it is crazy, bro. Like I'm alone all day, but like I don't feel alone. First of all, I have all you guys in the chat. So it's not really alone, right? If a therapist heard that, they'd be like, Amit, we need to do some work. But I also just talked to so many different people. It's Davis, dude. I don't respond to Davis for hours. Every time I get his message, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to freaking respond to his stupid Instagram reel. Dude, the Instagram reels he sent me yesterday are just like, dude, can we not send these things? But then to be fair, I sent him one as well. I felt like mine was funnier though. I felt mine was much funnier. Kuwait Ministry of Defense, 2 drones targeted a fuel tank at the Kuwait airport and a fire broke out with firefighting teams working to extinguish it. I wonder if those were Iranian drones. I would imagine they are. But more issues in Kuwait. Kuwait's had a lot of issues over the past couple of weeks, especially with the storage of the fuel that they need to deal with as well. How's Derek doing? Derek is actually doing well. I was on the phone with him last week. He's continuing to make progress in his startup. I know you guys haven't heard from him for a while, but he's just been head down focused on building it. And startups are hard, man. It's hard to build stuff. It's challenging, and he thinks there's just a massive opportunity, and so he doesn't. I mean, I don't know how much VG he has, but I think it's over 1 million shares. He bought a lot of VG at like him getting excited about VG at 6 was the first time I saw him get excited about a stock since Palantir in all the time I've known him. Like he does not get excited about stocks because he's building a company, right? He doesn't care about the stock market as much. But VG, he was just like, this is it. And he was right. And so I need to hit him up to see if he still has his position. But I mean, he doesn't really check the portfolio that much because, again, he's busy, he's traveling. So I imagine he still has all his VG. And that was the one move he made last year that really, really worked out. What's the startup? He's building like commerce. So Derek runs a company in Miami called HubX, which is B2B sales for computers and for a lot of electronics. And he's building a software product that essentially is the software version of the physical thing that he's built for the past 10 years. They do a couple $100 million in revenue. I mean, it's pretty big business, but it doesn't have amazing margins, obviously, because it's electronics. And so he's been theorizing about a software version of that for a long time. And so I invested in it, and they raised a round, but now he's in the nitty gritty of trying to build it. Zeta right there, that's up 2%. Has he heard of Claude? Oh yeah, dude. Some of these AI people he hired. I mean, dude, he stole some AI people from some pretty exciting private companies. Not Anthropic or OpenAI, but there are some other pretty exciting companies that he stole. He stole the CTO of AI from one of those, and he stole the head of security from another one. And so he has a rock star team. Like he's convinced some really cool people to work with him. But now they're just in the process of building. Tesla, are we green? 391. It's still green, but still slightly red. I was Stock Talk. He's awesome. He was on the show last week. I was with him at GTC. And so we got to talk about kind of how he's thinking of everything going on in the markets. NVIDIA right here at 180. Why is Davis in the chat, bro? You mentioned Davis for 1 second. This guy freaking shows up in the chat again. It's like he has a freaking bat signal and he knows when I'm talking about him. Hims, that one's still down. SoFi. Oh, look at that red candle on SoFi. 1712 to 1694. What do you think about Fastly? So, I mean, look, this is interesting. It's a software stock that hasn't had to deal with the software Armageddon. So I don't know the internal mechanics of Fastly. They had a great earnings, but up 200% on the year. I think this is more of it being a small cap, or it was a small cap. Now it's at $4 billion. versus like fundamentally it's the best software name that's out there. But it's avoided the SaaS Armageddon, which has been, very good for them. And they had a good earnings. I think they're a CDN, content delivery network, technically still SaaS, right? Sam says it's an AI inference play. That's another, maybe that's the reason it's escaped the software algos. But it's definitely made a hell of a move this year. Are we dumping? Are we actually going red on the day? S&P, we're not going red on the day, but there's your candle. Something happened right there, 658 to 657. It's 11. I don't think it's that Kuwait headline. The Qatari foreign minister said Iran has been here for a millennia. Nobody is going anywhere. Total annihilation is not an option. No people or country will disappear from existence by the wish of any whim or political actor. We will live next to each other. We will be neighbors for the future of humankind, and we will find ways to live next to each other. We will have to find a way past this. This is a very difficult moment, but we will find our way out of it. Sounds kind of reasonable. Once again, Qatar admitting, yeah, we can't wipe these guys off the planet. We have to live with them. Maybe that's more urgency for a deal. Yeah, that's not bearish to me. That's not bearish at all. That's them admitting we got to figure something out. We got to figure something out. Baidu just partnered with Lyft. Baidu, China's Google, just partnered with Lyft. Okay. Baidu stock up. Baidu is up about 2% on the day. All right, so I think that's pretty much it, guys. I don't think there's that much more. Amit, what channel should I DM you about the Singapore meetup? You can email amit@akcoms.com. We'll talk more about it when I get back from LA, but that could be the email to get a direct response. Microsoft now going red. Wow, Microsoft. Is this lower than what it was yesterday? Really? Microsoft? Yeah, it's a new 52-week low on Microsoft. Wow. The broader markets, no, Nvidia loses 180. 11 a.m. chop. I need the soundboard. We need a button for when things get choppy. There are so many freaking sounds we can use. Oracle went red. Ondas goes red. S&P not red yet, but Nvidia and Microsoft are a big part of it. Is space dumping? No, S&P lost about $3 right there. Rocket Lab was up 14. Now it's only up 10. So momentum dying out at least a little bit right here. Planet Labs still holding on to most of it. The Qs are red. So was all this fake? Well, until we go red, I don't think you can say all of it was fake. When the S&P goes red, then yes, you can say that. But 0.5% on the S&P. It just once again continues to prove the argument around covered calls. Like until we get that explosive breakout, we go green and then we kind of taper out, and then maybe tomorrow we end up going red. We have not had 2 green days in a row since last week, and last week we barely had those 2 green days in a row. We didn't get 3 green days. Once again, it's a sell the rip, or at least sell the call on the rip, and then try to benefit a bit on the downside when things go flat. Tesla right there, 391 as well. Yeah, VG spiking up, which kind of signals that markets should be taking a breather. Where's the VIX? VIX is 25.70. We were just at 25, so it's up almost $1 as well. Micron, 376. Micron is not at the low of the day. That's 371, but it is lower. I bought 100 Reddit shares. Where is Reddit? Reddit's actually done a good job holding the 135 to 140s. The low is 132. We haven't tested that again since last week. Look, I think Reddit's cheap. I don't know if it's the best high beta play in this environment, but I don't think it's a mistake to necessarily nibble at these levels, especially as the growth they continue to put up is way higher than the expectations. SoFi right there, 1680. Nebius 116. Wow, DoorDash, really? 52-week low? DoorDash, yeah, DoorDash down 2%. Okay, so Dash getting hit. I don't get why Microsoft fell off a cliff. It was holding steady for the day. Dash is now down 31% this year. What's your take on Celestica? I don't know enough about this company, but I know they're Canadian, and they had one of the best stock price movements last year in the entire market, much less Canada. They were up 200% last year. Year to date, they're up 1%. I've not really dug deep into them, but the earnings they put up last year were pretty incredible, which is why that stock continued to make a move. Dude, if Microsoft loses 370, oh my goodness, it's 50 cents away from losing it. There is no headline on Microsoft, folks. This is freaking IGV getting back to being red. Look at IGV, 30 cents away from losing 80. We have not touched below 80 since February 24th. This is software. Palantir might end up going red soon because of this as well. Palantir, you got a red candle right there. Salesforce, Adobe, obviously already red. Salesforce about to lose 180. Adobe, are we about to lose 238? We already lost, wow, 234. That is kind of random, dude. Claude didn't introduce anything. There's no big crazy software headline. That's like randomly in the middle of the day, 11:15. Market sell-off software. Egypt's foreign minister, a direct meeting between Iran and America is the last chance to avoid escalation in the region. Russia report possible operations targeting Karg Islands. Yeah, but if that Russia news would affect the entire market if that was legit. That wouldn't just affect software. This is like, I mean, yes, the whole market's taking a little bit of a hit, but software is like falling off a cliff right now, which seems to be the bigger culprit. S&P 656. Is oil rising? We were at 88. Where are we at on crude? We're at 89. If we get back up to 90, no bueno. This is crazy, bro. Every day. Every day. I mean, a little too early to say we're going to give up the entire move today. I'm sure most people's portfolios are green today, but if it happens, would anyone be surprised? Would anyone be surprised? Did Trump tweet? Yep. Trump, blame the Democrats for the airport mess. They want our country to do badly. They want our country to fail. They broke the already signed bill because they want to take care of criminals who enter our country illegally rather than American citizens. Thank you to our great ICE patriots for helping. It makes a big difference. I may call up the National Guard for more help. Okay, so it's not a war tweet, but it is an airport tweet. The National Guard at airports would be a bit aggressive. Fundrise, by the way, 570 to 486. So you're starting to see that one fade out a bit. SanDisk, are we at 650? We are very close. SanDisk down 7%. What about Western Digital? Yeah, 4%. Seagate, 5%. South Korea officially goes red. Samsung and SK Hynix could get hit as well. Now, SMH getting smoked. You are right. The semis now, which means NVIDIA. I don't know if we can hold this. Oh, wow. S&P's losing it. Oh, she's losing it. 654. We are barely up $1 on the day now. I mean, at this point. Wow. It all went away so quick. So quick. I mean, it's been 2 hours and we were looking at green, and in 2 minutes we're looking at red. Microsoft loses 370. I don't have a headline though. I really don't. Oh shit, maybe this is it. Iran's nuclear power plant has been struck again. Uh-oh. Iranian state media reports an Iranian nuclear power plant has been struck again. That's either an Israeli missile or a U.S. missile. And if it's an Israeli missile and Trump is seriously trying to negotiate, I think Trump's going to be pissed. I think Trump's going to be pissed. But if it's Trump doing it, then all this ceasefire stuff was bullshit because he was just buying time to do more attacks. Now, again, the Iranian state media is reporting this, so we can't fully confirm it yet. But I think that's the headline, folks. That'll do it, right? Is oil above 90? It's not above 90 yet, still 89. But that'll do. I mean, if you have another power plant attack, if that's real, I got to see if I can get some more coverage on this. Oh, my goodness. This is becoming exhausting, bro. It's legit becoming exhausting. Nuclear power plant. Nuclear power plant. I don't see this. I don't see anything outside of their state media confirming it. So we got to figure out. But that's at least somewhat of it. Look, either it's the algos just being whatever at 11:20 in the middle of the day, or there's legit reason. And maybe it is. Well, that explains VG spiking, right? Crude's got to get above 90, though. We're not above 90. Got to see if that actually gets above 90. Microsoft, though, dude. What did Microsoft do to get hit like this? 370. Yeah, you're getting the big accounts reporting it now. It's not, it's still Iranian state media, but you're having the big accounts repost what they posted. So that's starting to get the news out there. I don't know if that means we lose all the green. We lost about 70% of it. Could we rebound from here? Seeing some green candles pop in, but you're also seeing a bunch of these names continue to go down. We are above 90. Let me check a different website because the one I was looking at maybe doesn't show it. Let me pull something up. Crude is 89.79. Okay, so my web. Okay, so the other one I'm looking at, we're very close to 90. This thing moves very fast, but I'm looking at 89.70, which is above where it was in the morning at 87. ARM high of day, ARM unaffected by this news, ARM 160, 20%, dude. Goodness. I mean, they deserve it. They said they're going to freaking 5x their revenues annually. I don't know, guys, because these headlines are still kind of floating, right? We don't really know if it's true, if there was a real power plant that got struck or not. You don't really know. This has to be fake. Well, I'm just reporting what I'm seeing. I'm waiting for better sources here. It at least coincides with the price action, which is, you know, when we're trying to figure out a reason, this is the most obvious reason. But obviously, if this is fake, then we don't have an explanation for the price action. We once again are stuck in the limbo of trying to figure out if it would play out. Let me get an update right here on what some of the Iranians said yesterday around the ceasefire.
Government or who exactly this official is, but in any case, Iranian state TV is posting these 5 points they say officials in Tehran are demanding in exchange for an end to the war. They say they're demanding a complete halt to aggression and assassinations by the United States, the establishment of concrete mechanisms to ensure that the war is not reimposed on the Islamic Republic, guaranteed and clearly defined payment of war damages and reparations. Also, the conclusion of the war across all fronts and for all resistance groups involved throughout the region. That seems to be a nod at some of the Iranian proxies that are operating in the region. And then finally, and this one obviously is going to be a big strategic concern for the United States, Iran's exercise of sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz must be recognized. That, according to a senior political security official talking to Iranian state-owned press television. So where does that leave us in the negotiation? It is at least a response by the Iranian side, but it seems pretty clear, Sarah, that this is going to be a no-go for the U.S. administration. The idea of paying reparations and turning over the Strait of Hormuz to Iran seems like a non-starter in Washington, but we'll see what the White House has to say about it.
So I was going to say, what have we heard from the White House today, if anything? And do we know, are there negotiations happening with Witkoff, Kushner at this moment?
We don't know at this moment. And what the president has said is that Witkoff and Kushner are parts of negotiations that also involve the vice president and the secretary of state. He said that yesterday. He said that there's some hidden pieces to this. The president alluded yesterday to what he called a present that the Iranian side had given the United States within the 24 hours before he spoke. He said they gave us a present that has to do with the oil flow in the region, and we're happy with that present. It's unclear what the president was talking about there. Clearly, some piece of this is sort of cloaked in secrecy, and we don't quite understand what it is that the Iranians gave the United States. And
okay, so that was the update on the ceasefire and the 5 things the Iranians want. According to the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran, a projectile struck the facility like 30 minutes ago, marking an alarming escalation in the U.S.-Israeli terrorism against Iran's civilian infrastructure. So that is the headline. Again, we're still waiting for more confirmation on it. But I mean, that was what we had. S&P now turning a bit more green. This is, I don't even know how to explain this. 654 to 657. Seen some of these green candles come in, even with this headline. It's like either the market's ignoring it or the market doesn't believe it. NVIDIA back to 180. Oh, shit. Israeli army. We carried out waves of strikes on Tehran. Okay. It looks like that's confirmed. Now, did they attack the nuclear power plant? Did they actually do it? I mean, Israeli army, we carried out a wave of strikes on Tehran. So then that's correct then, that maybe the power plant was hit. I don't know if Israel's going to concede that they hit the power plant, but they are conceding we carried out a wave of strikes on Tehran. Dude, like, so I don't know how Trump's going to think of this, but I mean, if he's trying to negotiate right now, like, it's you cannot attack these guys when you're trying to negotiate. Like, you have Pakistan and Turkey and Egypt trying to be an intermediary and set up a meeting. Like, you cannot bomb them in the middle of talking. If that is true, if the Israeli army confirming just now we carried out a wave of strikes on Tehran, if they hit the nuclear power plant, S&P basically going flat here after a little bit of a green candle. I don't know. That sell-off looks like it just took out all the stops that were long. Price bounced off the 61.8. I mean, that's a good point. Could have also been very algorithmic and technical right there on some levels, but I don't know. It feels like the S&P right here is just reacting to these back and forth headlines. We need some more details from the Israeli army. They need to give some more information on these attacks. Usually they put out like a couple of stats on how they did this stuff. NVIDIA is still holding 180. Israeli army, we carried out a wide wave of attacks and strikes in Tehran. Iran has tried to strike Israel's power plants today. So that I saw that headline as well, but Israel has come out and said we deny that. I think there was a video of it as well. Yeah, this video right here that's been going viral, Iran strikes power plants in Israel. Israel already came out 30 minutes ago and said we deny that. Now, maybe they're lying. That is in Israel, and they have come out and said that Iran did not attack us. Obviously, both sides don't want to admit if they've been attacked or not. They want to be the people saying they attacked because they look weaker if they say they've been attacked. But then again, is that even true? Like, I don't fully know. Yeah, so for the people asking, did the IRGC really attack an Israeli power plant earlier? That video is going viral. We saw it in the morning. The official statement from Israel is that that was not an Iranian attack. However, Israel just came out 5 minutes ago and said we did carry out a wave of strikes on Tehran. Yeah, at this point, everyone's lying, bro. At this point, everyone's freaking lying here. S&P, Nvidia's 180. I don't know if it's going to hold it. S&P 657. I don't know if it's going to hold that, but that's a big move from 654 to 657 that quick. Google flat on the day. Grab holding on to 1%. IREN's up 0.5%. And Palantir's up a little bit. AMD, we were at 218. AMD is still at 219. Crude is at 90. That's correct. Crude is at 90. This is unbelievable, dude. This is trying to navigate in real time. So many different things happening right here. SoFi still red. I'm trying to see if we can get some more stuff on this power plant. If there's anything else that's out there. Iran Press TV. The Times of Israel, quote, Iran appeared to target Israeli power plant and missile attack, but they missed. Iran appeared to target Israeli power plant and missile attack, but missed. 15 minutes ago. 15 minutes ago. Okay, so for all those saying that the Iranians are attacking the Israelis right here, the Times of Israel is saying, yeah, they tried, but they missed. Now, obviously, they don't want to admit it. I don't know if they are exactly reporting the truth right here, but if you take it at face value, then they missed. If you don't take it at face value, they hit, and they don't want to admit it. That video showed as a strike on one of the electricity companies. Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, the Times of Israel is saying that it's not an Iranian strike now. Which, again, I don't know who to believe on that. Oh my gosh, this is just, I don't know. Look, guys, we're holding the green. I think that's it for today, at least for the market open. I'll be back on the close. We'll have Technical Wednesday today. I'm leaving you guys at 657 on the S&P. I hope we can stay there. The ceasefire stuff is legit enough to believe that the Iranians took a look at the proposal, even if they don't agree with it, which is still bullish. But these attacks that have broken out in the past 20 minutes, I don't know if that's going to damper any of how this ends up playing out. So I guess we will see, but that is what we got going on. Bond yields are we spiking? Nope, we're actually going down, which is good. 4.3. Crude is still going up, which is not the best. I think it's reacting to the immediacy of these headlines. But S&P right there is still 657. Sam said, I prepared the stream for early afternoon. Now I have to change everything. Sam will be live 2:45 p.m. Eastern. You guys can check him out. I'll link his YouTube right here as well. And you can get the Sam Saul report and see his perspective on what's going on. But Sam is just as confused as me. Like, he joined yesterday on the market close, and we were both just confused. Like, what is happening? Okay, cool. So I'll be back on the close. We'll have Jason. We will get into Technical Wednesday. Hopefully we'll have some more headlines that make sense of all this. I don't think Trump's going to go live later, but then again, he goes live a lot, so maybe he will be. And we'll see if we get some quotes and what Trump has to say about this, or if we just get some more updates on if this ceasefire is legit or not. Word of the day. Aplomb. There's no way this could be wrong. Aplomb. Aplomb. A-P-L-O-M-B. Self-confidence and composure, especially in challenging situations. He handled the volatility with aplomb, calm, confident, and completely in control. Quiet confidence always stands out. Dude, there's literally, I've never heard of this word before, but there is no way in hell that this is not aplomb. Has anyone, before I even look up the freaking, has anyone heard of this word before? Can we can you guys not gaslight me and be like, oh, I knew, of course it was this way. It's like, no, like most people don't freaking know this word. No one's ever heard of this word. Confidence. Whoever says, oh, he has a lot of aplomb to describe confidence. No one's fucking heard of this shit, dude. All right.
Aplomb.
You know, there's something about language as a concept that I think genetically I might have just not been born with the capacity to handle this. How is this a plum? Like what? Obviously, it's got to be French or something, right? Like that's how I always miss this stuff. A plum, aplomb to a plum.
A plum.
How many people genuinely, dude? How you guys have not heard this word? Okay, if you're in Paris, maybe you heard this word. Like, I'm not gonna believe that just because you're European, you've heard this word before, dude. No American has heard this word before. If you're American in the chat, you've not heard. I've never heard this word in my life. And I know that's not saying much, but still, like, no American knows what a plum is. You never heard a plum. Yes, we do. We read books. Okay, that's mean. All right, that's mean. It's French. I'm from France. Okay, if you're from France, I get it. No one's ever heard of a plum, dude. It's not a common word. This is so bad. Everyone's like, dude, I did this on an essay in high school. All right, whatever, bro. Whatever. I studied some SAT words as well, but I don't know what it is either. Oh boy, is this headline real? Is the S&P down on this? U.S. Central Command, our forces are striking targets to weaken the Iranian regime's infrastructure and military capabilities. Okay, so that might not be as bad as I thought, because that's not power plants or energy infrastructure. They're talking about overall infrastructure. But goodness, bro, if this is the U.S. Central Command, this isn't freaking Reuters. This is the U.S. Central Command. 2 quotes. We destroyed military targets in Iran that have threatened the region for decades. Second, our forces are striking targets to weaken the Iranian regime's infrastructure and military capabilities. I mean, dude, if you have the U.S. CENTCOM saying we are striking targets, even if they're not energy targets, and you have the Israeli army saying we've carried out a wave of strikes on Tehran, I don't know how much the market's going to believe in this freaking ceasefire, dude. I don't. Even though so far the market's believing in it. I mean, 657, we're up $5 on the day. So far, the market VG going up, though, might be the signal. Microsoft recovering it back above 370. NVIDIA barely below 180. Where's Bitcoin? Lost 72, but we're still at 70.9. We need a lot of aplomb to navigate these markets and to have the confidence to deal with everything that's going on. Ironically, I have a lot of aplomb when I pronounce these words in the wrong way. But all right, that's what we got, folks. I'll be back on the close. We'll have Jason on. I know this is getting tiring to handle. I know it's getting crazy. Wow, VCX 570 to 386. Just bumped right back up to 389. This one also getting hit right here. Damn, someone bought this thing at 570 in the morning. 383 here. I'll be back on the market close. We'll see what we can do. Hopefully we stay green and there's some level of appeasement in regards to the ceasefire and some updates on how it's playing out. But a lot of these headlines obviously don't feel friendly for the ceasefire continuing. Nonetheless, they're probably going to be attacking each other during the ceasefire at this point. I mean, it feels like if that's going to happen, then I guess that's what we all have to deal with. All right. Thank you, everybody. Technical Wednesday. We'll have it later today. Thank you all for being here. Have a great day. I will see you guys on the market close. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.